recording in three, two, and one. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek Show, a soccer podcast covering all things in the EPL, and we like to say from a bench perspective. I'm your spin. I'm joined by my co-host Rex. And Rex, I should be in a sour mood given what happened on Saturday morning, but you know what? I'm actually on cloud nine because what VCU did on Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday. So VCU was dancing after all, and the banner behind me kind of says it all. So I don't know. I'm actually in pretty good spirits, regardless of what happened Saturday and probably what's going to happen this afternoon when Liverpool plays again. But given what happened Sunday, I'm assuming you're in good spirits as well.
Yeah, it was. Well, I don't know. I just feel like it was a nice win, and gosh, just a needed win. That I'm not like I wasn't worrying the whole game. It felt nice. Like, hey, oh, this is it. This is kind of easy.
That
This is
does
cruise control. I don't have to worry about barely beating Bournemouth or whatever. So it
that
was
is
nice. It was
that
a nice
is a
change
nice
of pace.
feeling.
Seems like Arsenal has been pretty like cardiac kids recently.
hmm
With it, besides that, like Everton 4-0 game. So it was nice. It was nice and relaxing.
And we'll definitely we'll get to that, and I guess we won't really waste a whole lot of time because we do have a lot to speak about. I mean, starting with the story of the week. I think I'll probably we might actually touch on the kind of the same things. Really, the story of the weekend wasn't really what happened with the title race. Actually, frankly, everything was kind of boring. But there's a whole lot of movement at the bottom. So that's maybe the way to I guess what happened with Liverpool was the storyline by itself. But I don't really want to go there. But the thing I was noticing because I watched the Spurs Forest game, the City Palace game live. Um, Southampton had a man advantage. It looks like they could have gone all game without really scoring. They kept hitting the post, so that was good. Um, there are a few teams that there's something like 8 or 9 teams kind of bunched together. Maybe it's only eight that because I think Palace is what in 12th spot and they're only like
Yeah,
5 points
Palace
out.
is in 12th. Yeah, 5 points out.
All of these teams are bunched together, and there's a lot of speculation that just means there's a lot of balance into the league. And I weirdly am starting to think there's just a whole lot of mediocrity, unfortunately, in the league, where these teams are where they are because of either defensive consistency or an attacking identity. In some of these cases, I mean, Forest looked completely lost for ideas for Spurs. Palace, I don't think they registered a shot for City. They haven't registered a shot in 3 games, which we'll maybe get to. Leeds can actually attack a little bit, but can't defend. Everton and Weston can defend, but really don't look like they can score. And then Wolves kind of struggle to put chances away. And like the only team that I feel like has their act together where you get a consistent performance week to week is Bournemouth. Weirdly enough, but they have such a poor record defending set pieces. I think that's gonna eventually what brings them down. But yeah, I mean, and another thing to maybe say is it's really hard to win away from home. Which I guess is maybe kind of obvious, but only Chelsea, Arsenal, and City pulled it off this week.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Every away game is tough for sure. Environments are different too in the Premier League at different stadiums. So I don't know, but Ben, I'm gonna hop on the same thing, man. I'm like the relegation battle is just absolutely insane. That's what we were talking about Sunday because it seemed like some of these Leeds picked up a point, Southampton picked up a point, Bournemouth won, and West Ham picked up a point. So that was the bottom four at least got something. And then like Crystal Palace, I forget how many they haven't won, and I forget how many games, but they're all the way in 12th, which just by saying they're in 12th out of 20 say, hey, they're probably okay. They're not. They're only 3 points out of being dragged into the relegation zone. They're on 27 points. You have West Ham and Bournemouth are sitting at 17 and 18, and they're at 24. So it's crazy. And not only that, but you were also texting that you and your brother were talking about how it's literally only 5 points from 12th place to the bottom team in the Premier League, Southampton, at 20th.
That really,
5 points.
yeah,
That's it.
that really did
It's
kind
just
of
insane.
kind of stun me, to be honest. Because I can't remember. You can maybe remember it being kind of close to, like you said, like a relegation spot. But to
Yeah.
be only 5 away from like literally the last place team in the league, I can't remember the EPL being like this, or other leagues kind of being like this. I actually I took a look around what's happening in the other leagues, and you really do see there's like a Derby County in Germany, or let's see, we like a team that's in like the single digits essentially. You don't
Yeah,
see any of this. Like all of our teams, or all of the teams in the EPL have 20 points or more,
yeah, it's great.
which is stunning. Yeah.
It
But
could be too. Some of these teams, like at the bottom, are trying. Well, not really Southampton, but like Leeds, Bournemouth, West Ham, Nottingham Forest. They're all spending a lot of money this year too. So maybe that's part
that
of what's creating more parity.
that's fair. Yeah, the EPL
The
does have
bottom
a
teams spend a little bit more money.
significant advantage over the other leagues. Maybe they are able to do this. I mean, Bournemouth.
Yeah,
Look at what Bournemouth did. Liverpool
Bournemouth.
do not.
Yeah,
Liverpool beat Bournemouth 9-0 in the first game, and they have a new manager. So that's fair. But they did not have Django Watatara.
yeah.
When
Ooh,
Liverpool beat them 9-0, and that guy kind of showed up a little bit. So
yeah,
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 I think there's some of that. That's a fair shot. Um,
yeah.
but we'll move on. So we'll get started, I guess. You mentioned Crystal Palace, and we'll get started with Man City and Crystal Palace. Not a lot happened in this game, but we'll touch on what happened with Man City yesterday in the Champions League as well. So that'll be kind of something that we can fill some time up. This one ends just 1-0 with a Holland PK, a mistake by Michel Elise, and it was pretty unfortunate because Man City somewhat started okay. There were maybe a couple chances with that Holland miss that he maybe should have put away. The keeper Guaita was forced to make a couple good saves in the first half, and then out of nowhere, just everything kind of stalled, and it looked like maybe there's something in this for Palace, and then City get the PK. But I thought, to be honest, like Jamie texted to me during the game, like City's a fantastic game to have on in the background if you're trying to take a nap. And I kind
I
of
love
agreed.
that.
It was quite boring, and I don't know if it's because of the way like Pep lined up. He went with 4 center backs, and he just didn't really allow any kind of space in behind. He didn't really allow them to do any of the attack. John Stones was back. Maybe that kind of helped out a little bit. He had a fantastic game yesterday, and Kevin De Bruyne was benched, and I think who also had a fantastic game yesterday. And I think that's part of the reason a little bit. When Kevin De Bruyne is not playing, or Alvarez came on in the second half. City don't really have that cutting attacking edge outside of Holland, and Holland can't do this himself. He scored 5 goals yesterday, which we'll get to, and I think all of them
Yeah,
were tap-ins. All of them were, like, within that 6 to 3 yard area of the box. He's not
yeah.
gonna create something by himself. He needs service.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, really weird too, playing literally four center backs. I know like Ake kind of plays fullback some, but yeah, really weird. And maybe it was just like not much for Palace really in attack, just like the front three, because no one else is really going to get up, especially out of like the midfield. They're just going to kind of hang back. So maybe Palace was like, well, we'll have 4 center backs to deal with Elise, Zaha, and Ayu, and we'll be fine. We'll have that extra man.
Yep. And for
But yeah, I
Pal
don't. It was boring. Yeah, it was a boring game. Although if you're rooting for City to drop points, it kind of like makes it a little better.
I mean, there was some of that. Andrew kind of had the opinion that if he's gonna watch, something bad's gonna happen, or the thing he doesn't want to happen, like City doing well. So he was like, As long as I just like ignored, maybe they can get a result." And I woke him up right as the
Yeah.
PK happened, and he was upset about that. Um, and it was unfortunate for Elise because he's been trying to. I think Vieira has been trying to insert him more into the starting 11, and frankly, he kind of struggled a little bit on the ball as well. So just overall, he didn't necessarily have his best game. I thought Lukonga for Palace actually did look pretty bright, and
Yeah,
Milivojevic
me too.
wasn't necessarily great, and then he was taking off for this new midfielder. I can't say his first name, but Ahamada.
Mhm.
I thought he looked pretty right. Like, to be honest, I thought Palace actually looked fairly okay after the changes were made, as they came on for Schlupp, and Edouard finally came on for Ayew, and what you saw is Zaha, instead of being playing up the middle, was finally pushed back to the wing, which he likes, and I thought Palace at least posed some kind of attacking threat, but unfortunately, this was after City had the goal. City didn't have to this was one of those few chances where City didn't have to go get the second. They knew that they were fine having that one goal. to get the 3 points and just, yeah, it was a bit of a shocking performance from Palace, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for him because it was a lot of hard work undone by like a stupid PK in the box, a stupid foul, which sometimes happens, especially if you're like pushed back in a lot of the actions in your defensive end and in your box. Like eventually, if you just play the number game, someone's gonna make a PK if you're in the opposition box, like the whole game. Eventually, someone's gonna make a bad tackle, you'd think. But yeah, I don't know. I maybe it's just a good thing for Pep and City to be able to kind of rest some players, rest De Bruyne,
West of Bruyne,
and
yeah, that's a good shout.
and get all 3 points, and then play in the Champions League and move on in that too. So it's a good week for City, even though this game
Absolutely.
wasn't their best. You kind of saw their best on Tuesday, which is why Pep rested some of these players. So I also thought Alvarez was pretty fun when he came on. He like immediately hit the post on a nice shot and was pretty direct. So he was fun. He opened up the game a little bit, but yeah, it's kind of funny that Andrew was sleeping during this because it was one of those sleeper games, kind of a good nap game, like Jeremy said.
And, we don't have to go through all the chances. I mean, there were really that many for City, but I mean, the first one, it started early. I think in the first few minutes, Rodri has a volley from a corner kick. It's a good save by Guaita. This ball could have bounced anywhere. It was kind of pinball a little bit for the moment. There was a chance by Jack Grealish. I thought this was actually a pretty bad miss. We'll get to Jack Grealish. I still think he's a bit of an issue,
Yeah.
because he actually does well to get past his defender. He's able to kind of run inside the box after cutting inside, and I wanna say he's within, 12 yards or so, and he just hits it wide. And it's really another reason to highlight this is it's a fantastic run by Holland. Holland drags, Mark Gahey out of position, which opens the space for the shot. So Holland, had a chance to create, for a teammate, and Grealish wasn't able to come through for that. And then Holland had a couple chances. I mean, City put Palace to sleep with a little triangle between Rodri, Ake, and Bernardo. This was pretty good by City. Elise falls asleep and loses Ake, slipping behind him. And then Bernardo Silva plays Ake the ball. Ake has a free cross across the goal, and Holland rarely hits this over the bar. It's kind of shocking that he gets enough power to hit it over the bar because all it takes is just a tap in. Another case where Holland was able to even in a packed box, City City were able to find him completely free, 6 yards away from the penalty area. It's funny how that works.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then Holland had another chance. Jack Grealish basically was a decoy in this one. He gets the ball, but he runs inside, bringing two defenders to run with him. Leaves Holland completely unmarked in the box on the left side of the box, and he sends a hard cross that Guaita basically pairs away. And again, this rebound could have gone anywhere, but it was amazing to leave Holland completely unmarked, and that's because they followed Jack Grealish's run. So I mean, Grealish, the off the ball movement was a little bit better from City. Weirdly enough, it was just the build up was just really slow, and when they got the ball in the wings, it felt like they didn't wanna try a cross or anything, they just it wasn't completely on. They were just going backwards, and just Palace had no way to win the ball back themselves, and when they did have the ball, Palace were just losing it. And
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah, they're
phone
pretty sloppy.
there was a phone chance, and I wanna get to this one because you mentioned up Alvarez, and this was maybe the best chance. This move deserved a goal, because,
I think so. Yeah.
Haaland does well to kind of turn and keep the ball, on the halfway line. He finds Alvarez. Alvarez then runs inside, dragging someone with him. The pass goes to Rodri, who quickly plays it out wide to Bernardo Silva, occupying the space that Alvarez creates for him. And then Silva waits and finds Alvarez kind of sitting between the center backs. Bernardo Silva plays in the ball, and Alvarez has a really great turn to get past the first defender, Milhovic. And then, yeah, he either hits a shot over the bar or it's saved. I forget, but he was so close to it. Anything on the ground and and in the corner probably goes in. And this movement really did deserve. I mean, for anyone that went through, this was a slog. So anyone that got to this point in the game deserved that to at least be treated to something.
Just a
Um,
little bit of
and it
something.
and it was close. It was close. It was but and then yeah, the PK happens, and it's just a short corner kick that Palace isn't aware of, and then Elise just makes a mistake of running way too close to Gunnigan, and Gunnigan's able to tap the ball away, but when Elise pulls him over, unfortunately, it's not one of those things where you can say this was a 50-50 call or City getting a break. No, it's stone cold, unfortunately. And then
Yeah.
Holland does a
Yeah.
good job to put the PK away, and Holland scores the PK on the day Salah missed, which wasn't great. Great for me, or great on social media for Liverpool fans. That kind of rubbed salt in the wounds as well. And then towards the end, Kevin De Bruyne did come on and had he sent a fantastic ball across the field to Jack Grealish, who did send a good cross, kind of curling in to Holland. That again, Holland, you figure would do a little bit better. He has a header, and it just kind of heads it over. But
That ball by De Bruyne was amazing though.
that
It
was
was he didn't even
pretty
like
much the game.
try.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You just see you saw immediately what City were missing without him, because again, Pep doesn't like stuff like that. Like he doesn't like any kind of directness in his play, because if it doesn't come off, it's potentially a turnover, and yeah, that's kind of
That's
the way they think.
Well,
But
that's a good point too, though, Ben, because like they could have been direct. You could have just put Mares in and been like, "Hey, go down the sideline with your speed and just cross it into Holland." But Mares again was sitting on the bench, and there like sometimes there's like things he could do to change things up offensively, and he's kind of like, "I don't want to. Let's just hang on to the ball. We'll grind it. We'll grind it out, and we'll get the win."
yeah, the thing I don't understand is he'll make some changes with the right side. We see that all the time. In fact, you bring up Mahrez. Mahrez was the one that was making all the headlines back in January and February. And now Foden's come in. He's gotten a couple games, and Foden was the one that was actually subbed off in this game for Alvarez. But we haven't seen anyone take Grealish's spot at all through this entire stretch, and I
True.
think it's just because Grealish does what Pep wants him to do, but that's kind of the reason why City have become unwatchable in some of these games. When Grealish gets the ball, he's usually not really looking to do anything with it. He holds on it, and maybe he goes back to Ake. I mean, it's safe, and I guess it's working. City are winning games, but for the neutral, it is awful.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
to focus on the stats, I mean, Crystal Palace actually was 0.21. Man City was over
Ooh.
2. Palace 4 shots, 0 on target. Yeah, that's been a theme for Palace, unfortunately, for a number of games. I don't think they had a shot on target versus Liverpool, though they maybe should have scored. So that's going back at least 3 games now in a row, because I don't think they had a shot on goal versus Aston Villa last week. Um, and they lost that game because of, like, a weird own goal. It's not like that was a good game for them either. Man City was 14
Yeah.
shots and 4 on target. So it's not like it's not this wasn't your typical City team where, they were smothering a team with possession. They had the goalie on fire, and it was, facing 20, 25 shots or so. There wasn't any of that. It was a weird game, to be honest. City did have 3 big
It
chances, though.
was. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Three big chances. But yeah, other than that, it was a very weird game.
And, you kinda mentioned what did you think of Kevin De Bruyne being benched? I guess maybe yesterday kinda gave us the answer to that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Because well, he hasn't been playing as much, and part of me, like, I don't know if I want to, just like I'm kind of making this up, but a part of me just thinks there's maybe some issues bubbling there. It's either that, or he actually is like a little jaded and he needs rest, or Pep's like, we're going to use you in the Champions League. I don't know. Because, like, it is a lot less playing time, especially recently, than he's used to. So I feel like he's not tired.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just wonder if something's, like, bubbling there, kind of like with, I don't know, like Jesus and maybe, Zinchenko. Maybe they were a little, like, unhappy.
Mhm.
Just so many years of Pep. Players kind of get, like, I don't know, they get the creativity kind of, like, drilled out of them because Pep's so, just wants you to play possession, and like you said, he doesn't want those like creative long balls and things like that. So I don't know, maybe something's bubbling there, but I think him in the Champions League playing well kind of makes me want to go back on that and kind of feel like okay, maybe he is getting older, and Pep's just making sure he's fully fit and rested, and I mean maybe this is Pep being like we want to win the Champions League finally, and if we can win without De Bruyne in Premier League and just rest him,
Yeah, have him
and then
healthy.
we come in and have him healthy for the Champions League. I think it's kind of Pep being like, "Hey, let's win this Champions League finally." Especially because things are. I mean, they're still obviously very much in the Premier League race, but I think this is the one trophy, the Champions League, that Pep wants to win,
Mhm.
and that City fans, are just longing to win for forever. Haven't won it. They've come close, even though they spend outrageous amounts of money, but that's what they want to win. And I think this is kind of Pep, kind of putting that banner down, being like, yeah, this is what we want to do. And the performance yesterday obviously kind of spoke to that too.
I think there is some of that. I mean, frankly, it's felt for a while that Pep hasn't really taken the league nearly as seriously as maybe the Champions League because we've seen all these weird experiments. Bernardo Silva tried at left back in February. It was almost like Pep was bored. Rico Lewis given a little bit of a role, and maybe that was because he was missing someone like Stones. Stones returning does kind of change the back line a little bit. I mean, we saw Stones yesterday to now kind of focus a little more on what happened yesterday. Stones played like right back at times. He played, CM next to Rodri at times. He was also like kind of a makeshift center back at times. He was doing the weird, fake, go into midfield in possession and be in the back three when you have to be the fullback on defense. And you kind of forget how talented someone like John Stones can actually be. Like his only issue really has been his injury record. But
Yeah,
but maybe with Stones back, that does make City a little bit different, and City is able to do the kind of things that he wants Rico Lewis or whatever to do. But Rico Lewis can get bowled over by just someone blowing on him. Stones can be physical in that area, so maybe that kind of changes things.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, Stone's more like a big like center back kind of guy and different player than Rico Lewis for sure. And maybe that a little bit of that steal and defense will. I mean, it certainly will help them out, especially in like physical games.
And
So
you don't
yeah,
lose
weirdly,
quality. You don't lose like Rico Lewis like has a lot of quality when he's on the ball. That's why Pep really
yeah,
likes him.
that's
Stones is really good with his feet for a center back. Um,
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. He's not bad at all.
And I guess with Pep kind of doing this weird, four center backs kind of playing, you're not necessarily going to see, you're not going to see Nathan Ake doing what Cancelo was doing, creative wise,
Yeah,
or at least playing that big role in the attack. But so maybe that is the reason why you're going to have more defensive security. So you need to play someone like Kevin De Bruyne had a little bit more of a free will. Where with Cancelo, maybe that was leaving you a little too exposed because for Nathan Ake isn't going to be what Cancelo is offensively, but he is going to be better defending those transition moments. So
yeah, that's a good point. Although going an attack, I mean, Cancelo just lighting it up for Bayern
mhm.
weekend. Maybe for a little bit, maybe Pep was like, oh, I kind of miss him. But yeah, you're right. I mean, for all the attack that he has, sometimes the defensive parts are lacking, and it's because he's up so far up the pitch too. It's kind of like Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's like, well, they're attack minded fullbacks, so like they want to get up the pitch. They're not going to get back all the time, and it's hard to defend like when you're sprinting back and you're not really in a good position. So it kind of makes you look like you can't defend. But yeah, I don't know. They just remind me of each other in the way that they're so good on the ball, and they just get goals and assists like all the time.
And we'll touch on what happened. What Holland gets to 5 goals. We mentioned with the PK. So then and I didn't think it was worth a PK, to be fair. So I'll kind of
Yeah,
throw some water on that. To be a little salty. But
yeah,
to be honest, the way that City were playing, it was almost like a front five. So Rodri is kind of underneath. You have the center backs, behind for protection. Maybe Stones is next to Rodri to help with that. Stones also has the legs to run back and maybe defend on the wing side. So maybe that is a way to kind of defend against any kind of transition moments, which Pep is so focused on. But with the front, you get a front five because eventually Gundogan ends up making a late run to kind of join in the attack. So you have Kevin De Bruyne with a free roll, and almost Gundogan becomes a bit of a free roll. I thought he was maybe the secret sauce yesterday. He's not going to get any kind of praise. We've talked about him a little bit more before on the podcast, but he's next to Rodri in build up. He can't be pressed. He is not like the other City players where he actually will look to play a through ball if it's on. He looks to try to get Holland into the game. Unlike maybe some other players. And it was interesting to see Bernardo Silva start over Foden. And I don't know if that was Pep maybe uh, making some news there, or just he hasn't really played Bernardo Silva that much. But they looked pretty good on that right side with Bernardo Silva, and Bernardo Silva wasn't really playing on the wing side either. He was kind of dropping in and kind of filling in wherever the space was. He almost had a free roll yesterday.
yeah, yeah. He really did. It was weird, and I like more about Gundogan being underrated. You know the Premier League game on the weekend, you mentioned he was the one that got fouled in the box. That set up the Holland game-winning PK. So yeah, more of
Mhm.
him just being a good team player, kind of playing wherever you want him to be. And he can be a 6, he can be an 8, he could probably even be a 10. And yeah, just doing some of the dirty work that sometimes doesn't really show up on the stat sheet necessarily, like getting taken out for a PK and then someone else taking the PK. Like you don't get an assist for that. Yeah, it's just a little bit of Gundogan in a microcosm.
And, again, it's annoying that, that Pep has him. One thing I do
Yeah.
wanna note is before Holland went into, like, FIFA mode, there was, like, a weird 8-minute stretch yesterday where Leipzig were pressing Grealish, Ederson, and Rodri into some bad giveaways, that I really do think any competent side, not playing, Timo Werner, at striker, maybe puts away. So, like, this weird back 3 thing that the Pep's still trying to do, when the fullback plays in midfield, it does feel sound in theory, but in reality, I think eventually, whether it's Akanji or Stones, playing in that third center back role, in defense, if City do lose the ball, it's still eventually a 1v1 with Vinny or Kvara, maybe Rafael Leao or, maybe Defonso Davies or Coman, doing 1v1 there. It's still advantage to the attacker in that situation. So I still don't really know if this impenetrable, defensive force. Now maybe with Holland, you can outscore teams.
Yeah,
But
true.
I'm still not really sold on this weird, 3 in the back kind of Jack Grealish as a fake wingback role, still. But I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm still being salty. And Edison is low key, I think, a liability for City.
Hmm.
Um, he's he
Ooh.
almost I don't necessarily he would have been sent off yesterday, but he made a rash decision to come out, and completely clouded into Conrad Leimer. And shockingly enough, it was a foul on Leimer, not Ederson. But he's been making weird decisions, in a number of these games, and he's never really been known as like a great at making saves. And
Hmm.
frankly, he wasn't really great with his feet yesterday either. He was giving the ball away with a couple bad passes, as well. So that'll maybe be something to see. Everyone's gonna praise City
Yeah.
for winning 7-0 or whatever it was, 6-0. Holland scored 6, I guess it was 7-0.
7.
And
Yeah, because Holland scored 5.
yeah. And,
But it is like you said though, it is kind of maybe for teams looking at tape, playing City soon. It is kind of maybe a blueprint on what you can key in on. Like, hey, let's press Ederson when he has the ball at his feet. He's not that good.
Mhm.
And then maybe like later down the line, like teams will be able to get a cheap goal. So yeah, like there are things to take away for teams looking at that, being like, oh great, we play City next, and they just destroyed someone in the Champions League. But when you actually like look at the tape, it's like okay, well they can make mistakes there. They're not like a superhuman team. You can actually get at them, and
I think I think you can
key in on it. It's a
I
it's a
think you can be
blueprint, maybe.
physical with them. And for some reason, we never see teams just kind of allow that pretty passing to happen. I
Yeah,
remember
sometimes you just gotta stoke them.
I remember when
Stoke.
Newcastle played them, like, the first thing, Trippier or Bruno Guimaraes did was just a nice slide tackle almost to, like, the thigh of Rodri, just kind of show them they were there. It was a yellow card, but it set the tempo early. But
Yeah,
anyways, to
that's how like Stoke would always be a thorn in Arsenal's side because Arsenal was like small and really good on the ball, and then Stoke would come in and just be like huge and muscular and be like, hey, we're just gonna push you around and knock the pretty players off their game, so to speak, and it does work. So yeah, that's a good point too.
'cause Jack Grealish is always just, like, arguing and looking for a foul. I think he could get him off his game as well. Um,
He really is
let
always whining.
let's see, and with Palace, I did think they looked a little bit better, in the second half with the changes. I mean, do you see any positives from that game? Because they almost got a result.
Yeah,
And
no, I thought they played
yeah.
well. I really did. Like we said, it was just that one moment in the box of stupidity that got the PK,
Mhm,
and like that was all. That was all. I mean, obviously, going forward, they're going to have to create more, and they have the ability. They have the players to do that, but they only had 4 shots and none on target.
mhm.
They're just chasing City around, but I thought they did pretty well just to keep that thing at 0-0 for so long. You never know. You never know what can happen, and I mean, they are in a bit of a slide, but I thought this performance kind of gave some optimism. Like, I
Yeah.
think they could beat teams in the bottom three if they play like this. They only lost 1-0 by PK, so they can definitely I think beat some of those lower ranked teams. They could beat. I mean, they could beat Southampton, Leeds, and Bournemouth. You would think. if
Mhm.
they play like that. So I would take that away. But man, they haven't won in a while. They need a win. I know, like obviously, it's hard to get a win against City, but they got to take some positives from that performance. They got to get their offense going, and they got to win soon because this winless streak is really hurting them. I mean, I don't know. It could be a totally different story next weekend. They could be in that danger zone just in 1 week. So they gotta get a win. They
Yeah,
really do.
I mean, they are hard to beat, to be
Yeah,
honest. I think
yeah, they really are.
they almost had 3 draws in a row. They drew Brighton. They were outplayed in every single game. They drew, Man United. I think that was the Casemiro red card, and they drew Liverpool just recently.
Yeah.
And gave City a good game. So, the only
Mhm.
issue with that is it's not necessarily a good thing to play well against the big teams. You're going to need to probably win a couple games, and you said versus competition that is basically next to you. So,
Yeah.
maybe
Oh,
with Zaha being back, 'cause they missed Zaha for a lot of the stretch. Playing him on
definitely.
the wing, I think he looks better on the wing than, trying through the middle as the main striker. And play Edward, do not do, IU anymore. I know he likes IU for, maybe what he does off the ball, his defensive contributions, but man, he looked off it. I thought they looked a little they had a little more threat when Edward came on. So,
Yeah, yeah, me too, me too. And Crystal Palace actually, they're third in the league for most draws at 9.
interesting.
And you
Yeah.
have
Mhm.
yeah, Brentford has 11 and Newcastle have 11.
Newcastle. I knew
So
Newcastle was up there.
so they are hard to beat. You're right on that.
Yeah. I mean, that it's a good ground. That's a good away ground. They can at least, bank on that. The fans at least, are pretty loud and
Oh,
benefit
that's
if you know
true.
people.
Yeah, very loud. Oh yeah.
Um, we'll move on to Arsenal and Fulham, and, like you said, you kind of broke up. Maybe you didn't know what to expect. It was maybe a tricky week, for Arteta because, you had the Bournemouth scare. You drew for Sporting, in Europa, and you weren't able to play. That was Sporting without Manuel Ugarte, their best player, in my opinion. And Arsenal had squad issues that game. I think, Odegaard had a virus.
Yeah.
Kiwar, the new signing, didn't really have his best start. Matt Turner kind of
Yeah.
didn't really have his best game. And so,
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of things going into this. Also, I think Fulham in the when you guys played them in the league early in the season gave you a scare as well. I think you guys
Yeah.
had to come back in that game. So this was away, to Fulham. So this was a bit of a shock. Just the actual scoreline, but also just how easy because this was 3-0. I think it was 3-0 at halftime.
Yeah, yeah, it was 3 at halftime, and, I mean, it looked pretty easy, and they did all the work in the first half and kinda coasted in the second half, but you're absolutely right, like, I thought this game was going to be really hard because I think they were down 1-0 when they played Fulham the first time and ended up winning 2-1, like, barely at the end,
Yeah, something like
and
that.
like you said, that was at home, so it's like, this is gonna be a tough game. Mitrovic is a tough forward to handle, but I think really, like, when I saw the lineup, um, no Palhinha really was like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
Hmm.
that's good because he's like, such a huge force in the midfield." One of those there's a lot of these guys from, like, the Portuguese league that play in that spot that have been good. I mean, Nunez is another one, and it's interesting that they go to, like, Fulham and Wolverhampton and not some of these bigger clubs, but yeah, he was key, and he was a big miss on the day, I think. And
Good
then
shout.
like Robinson had a little off game too. Like one of the goals, he like didn't even jump. I think Martinelli hit
The
it,
Martinelli
and
one.
he
Yeah.
yeah, and he kind of just didn't even jump. And then he had that own goal, but it was chalked off. So
Hmm.
it was a little rough for him. But yeah, I thought it would be a harder game. So it was kind of nice just to be able to like watch Arsenal play well and just kind of put it on cruise control. And I didn't have to like worry about the points in this game. So it was really nice. It was a good change of pace.
Well, it's kind of amazing what happens when these star players, regardless of it, whether it's injury or not, would they get a chance to kind of press their legs because Trossard returned to the starting 11, and all he did was just get 3 assists.
I don't
Um,
know how he like literally a week was all he was out for that groin thing. I didn't think he'd be back that soon, even if it was like a minor issue.
he looked fantastic, and like it's one thing to get an assist when you're like just crossing the ball. This wasn't hit and hope. He was actually picking out who he wanted, and I really liked the way that him and Martinelli were kind of switching off between who goes out wide and who went in the middle.
Yeah,
That was fantastic, and again, like you said, Fulham had no idea how to mess with that. So
yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, just kinda you kinda mentioned, you mentioned the Robinson chance. I mean, it got started really early where, like, Martinelli just be able was able to create an own goal off Robinson, but it was chopped off for offsides, but it was a nice little play by Martinelli and Xhaka. And again, this is Martinelli actually coming from the wing, Trossard through the middle, and so that was one of those cases, but really, the first goal just comes from, I think it's a corner kick. So it's just Gabriel kind of winning a header. This is one of the trust hard assists, so I don't really count this one that much, but it's actually poor defending. I think from Fulham. But the other two goals were spectacular. The first one from
Yeah.
Martinelli. This was, I mean, it is a poorly defended header by Robinson. I think he's caught napping, but it starts with a terrific swing pass by Saliba being pressed. He's being pressed in the corner, and he's able to pick out Shaka on the other side of the field completely open. And then it's all about Shaka being able to play the right pass. He does, but I do think he plays a poor ball. But Trossard does really well to control it. And then Trossard makes a defender miss and goes down the wing and floats across in that Martinelli again is able to kind of head in. Robinson just basically watches it happen, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
it was
Good.
Martinelli being in the box versus being in the wing, and yeah, it was the again just couldn't the Fulham did not know how to handle that. And then the third
Yeah.
goal also came from Trossard. There's a little scare. Ramsdale had he's kind of given the ball away that I think Pereira maybe misfires his chip shot. They had a chance to maybe get Fulham into the game, maybe punish Ramsdale a little bit here, but it doesn't come off. And then a little bit later, Martinelli gets the ball out wide, but he has Trossard to kind of make a run ahead of him, and he gives Trossard the ball. And then Trossard picks out Odegaard to a T, and then Odegaard does what I feel like if there's a criticism to him this year, at least from my perspective, is I feel like he could do this more. I feel like he could do this almost every game. Now he does have like I think 12 goals to his credit, but he's got such a good touch, and he doesn't look like he's shy inside the box. He has a wonderful touch, feint, and he nails it in the corner. And I just feel like if there's any critique to his game, I feel like he could offer more of this. But that's maybe
Yeah.
grasping at straws.
I think that's a good point. Like, yeah, I mean, because there are some games where he's kind of non-existent, and you're kind of like, I don't understand why. Maybe just has, just one of those days, an off day. But this was certainly an on day for him.
Mhm.
And I mean, he's still really young too. So to see him, he's the top goal scorer for Arsenal in the Premier League too. So to see him doing all this, and then like just remember how young he is, it's really exciting.
I didn't think about that, but that's a good way to put it. I think he
Yeah,
also
I
has
think he's
he's
21.
4 or 5 assists as well. So I guess it's over the course it's like what 16 or 17 goal actions.
Yeah,
And like you said, for a 21 year old, it's crazy that he's still that young. I remember him when he was like 15 when he signed for
yeah.
Real Madrid,
Mhm,
which
mhm.
shows my age. Um,
Well, he was born in 2001, so that makes me feel old too.
that does. We don't like to we don't like to think of that. Um,
Yeah,
well, you one last thing to maybe say is it was almost a nearly perfect day, I think, for you guys. But not just the result, but Gabriel Jesus returned, and
yeah,
he almost kept it off with a really good goal. It's a really good play by him and Fabio Vieira. And the unfortunate thing is the shot's maybe too close to Leno. It's a good save, but Jesus, what he does is he almost has like a flick. He has like a spin flick, and I think it's done on purpose to get Fabio before that basically creates a goal. So you saw what Arsenal had been missing just with him. You saw a little flair, just a little taste of that again. And
yeah.
maybe another day he puts that away. But Arsenal are getting healthy at the right time. I would say you get Jesus back, get
Yeah,
Trossard back.
true.
I don't know how long Kincadia is out, but everything else seems to be on good cylinders.
Yeah, Smith Rowe possibly coming back too.
Mhm.
I mean, Jesus coming back this soon too was amazing. I thought, like last week, I thought this Thursday he'd kind of be on the bench and come in. So he's about a week ahead of that schedule. But further out, like he just had surgery on his knee in like December, right? So I'm surprised he's back this soon, and it was good to see because we definitely need him. And like you said, hopefully we're getting healthy at the right time, especially in case he has that knock or whatever. So yeah, it'd be nice to maybe not have to play a false nine at times and switch things up. At the very least, have some depth at striker, and you don't have to rely on Nketiah. You don't have to maybe play a false nine anymore with Jesus back. And if he doesn't score goals, he's creating assists or creating like pre-assists. So he's important.
And one of the good things that this gonna bring me back to my Liverpool time. One of the nice things about a front three is if you have a day where, if one of the 2, isn't necessarily clicking, or if yeah, one of the 3 isn't necessarily clicking, the other 2 will kind of, step up, and Saka didn't necessarily have his best game, but he's been able
Yeah.
to carry, when, Martinelli or the others haven't in the past, and, speaking of Saka, I am curious if maybe he's been a little overplayed as well, and I'd like to maybe see Rice Nelson get some more, game time if, Arteta is game for that, because
Yeah.
it feels like Nelson can play both on the left and right. I think he played on the left, for Sporting in the Europa game.
Yeah, I think he can play both, and I mean, maybe at the very least, he's a good sub because we saw it in the Bournemouth game. So yeah, I want to see him play too, though, more Ben, because he's a homegrown product, Haaland
Hmm.
graduate, and yeah, and he's good. I mean, he really is good. He either needs more game minutes, or he kind of needs that loan away, and now it's seeming like he is getting some game minutes when he's healthy. So all you can really do is show what you got when you get the minutes, and at
Hmm.
least you're getting some minutes to kind of prove that, hey, I should play more, and I think he will.
And, one thing I wanna touch on, with the stats, Fulham, 12 shots, 2 on target. Um, Arsenal's, 15 and 7. And that's not really a number we're used to seeing with Arsenal, or at least we haven't seen that often, with
Yeah.
Arsenal. And 2.3 xG. The 7 I think is really the key. So I'll be interested to see if maybe that's Arteta's found a way to kind of turn that around, or this was just a one off. But that to me is really
True.
encouraging to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good number. That's a good stat right there.
And just quickly, I don't know if you kind of remember the Europa game, but I mean, did you have any thoughts on maybe Kiwar kind of, kind of making his debut, but didn't really do well on
Yeah.
that corner kick or, one thing I actually maybe before that, I'll ask you this because I asked Andrew this and he had an interesting answer. He surprised me. Um, what do you think Arsenal should do with Matt Turner? Because you're getting to a spot where I think Turner was actually quite. He looked like he hasn't played in a while. He looked rusty.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you take Europa seriously enough where you go from here on, you actually just play Ramsdale instead? Because you've seen some teams kinda do that. Now that maybe messes up the balance, maybe that upsets Turner. Or
Mhm.
do you just kinda stick it out and kinda just hope that Turner can find some form, in this in training when he's not really getting game time?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think the Kiavor and Turner, they looked honestly like they hadn't played in a while, and neither one had played in a while.
Mhm,
So I don't know. I think maybe just more game time. Like they're gonna play again tomorrow probably, or at least Turner will. But with Turner, I don't know. It's very interesting. I think it could be one of those situations where they're gonna ride with Turner to a certain point, and then maybe like the semis. They're kind of maybe they're like, all right, let's go with Ramsdale, or maybe they're like, let's
mhm.
just ride with Turner the whole way. We told him this is his like cup to start in, and like you said, maybe he'll be upset if we pull him. But it could be one of those situations where like maybe they get to the final. Arteta's like, all right, Turner got us there, but we need Ramsdale to get us over the hump, and maybe Ramsdale starts the final. It would be very harsh on
Ooh,
Turner.
that would be.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
I understand
I mean, we've seen that happen.
I
But
understand pulling him now, but if the guy that gets you
the
all the way
final.
there, if you get to the final, that would be harsh. But
I think Arteta will stay with him.
I mean,
I think so. I think it was just Russ because he played well. In Europa League in the group stages, he played
mhm,
pretty well.
that's
So I
fair.
think I think it was just rust. I think, but I mean, if he doesn't play well Thursday, then yeah, you could possibly see Ramsdale get the Europa League start. I
'Cause
don't
it was
know.
'cause it wasn't just like, they scored 2 on him, one was just kind of, from a corner kick, like, it was really, really close by, you can't really mess with that. He looked very, nervous when he got the ball at his feet, and
Mm.
Sporting were getting him to kinda he had a couple really bad passes, a couple, like, scary situations where, he maybe got a pass to an Arsenal player, but it was close to being a turnover. Um
Oh yeah.
One thing I wanna touch on because we haven't really spoken about this is, have you noticed, like, the formation that Arsenal have been playing? Like, at least, when some teams are basically sitting back against them, they are going all in on the 2-2-6, which is
Oh.
absolutely wild. So you have t t the 2 defenders, and then you basically 2 in midfield, and then you really do have a front 6. And what's crazy is you haven't really seen teams being able to really counter on Arsenal at least so far. So I mean that's putting Gabriel and Saliba on like Revis Island, like
Yeah,
old
it is.
cornerback. So you have to be able to handle that 1v1. But so far they've been able to do that, and so it kind of shows goes to say how important they are to this Arsenal team as well.
Yeah, and it's a great partnership too. I mean, they've had their ups and downs. That like they're not tremendous every game, but yeah, they're good. And I think Thomas and Shaka too, as your defensive mids coming back to help out,
Hmm.
they're crucial as well because if Zinchenko and White are all the way up the field, sometimes it's Gabriel and Saliba, like you said, alone, and then other times though you kind of have Thomas or Shaka dropping back because they kind of have
Hmm.
that knack to intercept like vital passes or to fill like gaps or just to protect that back four. So yeah, it's really it's awesome because sometimes like Zinchenko, we saw especially in the beginning of the year, Zinchenko would go up and kind of play like in the midfield and
Almost didn't.
Shaka would kind of
Yeah,
recover.
he almost didn't
So
have a
it's
position.
nice. Yeah, he really didn't. So
Yeah.
they're very fluid. Same, you talked about like Martinelli and Trossard switching sides and things like that. It's very fluid, and it is in that respect. It's kind of City esque, and you can tell, with the knowledge that that Pep and Arteta coach together, you can kind of tell there's a lot of similarities there in the way they play, and
Hmm.
especially this game, using the false nine. So yeah, it's good. It's good though because they can throw a lot of different things at people, which is kind of like what City can do.
And we mentioned last week the metrics don't really love Fulham, to be honest. Like goal difference and expected points, kind of expected Fulham were maybe punching a little bit above their weight. You mentioned not having Polina for these last 2 games. Frankly, I didn't realize that when you have yellow card accumulation, it's 2 games you miss. That kind of surprised me a little bit.
It is?
So
Oh, I didn't know. I thought
that's the reason why I missed this one. So I guess he'll be back for the next game because he missed the Brentford one because of this.
damn. Well, I
But
didn't know that. Yeah, I thought it was just one.
yeah, and another thing too is, they said Mitrovic. I didn't actually look to see if this was right. They said Mitrovic hadn't scored since, like, October,
Really?
which kind of stunned me. He's on, like, 12 goals. So
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that sounds kinda right.
he's on a bit of a goal drought, for them. Now I know he had some issues before the World Cup. There was some talks that he was, like, faking an injury to be healthy for Serbia, but I didn't realize he hadn't bagged since then.
Really?
Um,
I'm gonna have to look that up while you talk.
oh, no.
I gotta see.
Hopefully.
11 goals and 1 assist, yeah. No, I think you're right, but I just wanna, like, see.
For some reason,
But y
I heard that or saw that, but I did not check myself, so I'm getting myself in trouble.
it
But
honestly sounds right.
while you do that, I'll move to Liverpool and Bournemouth. Unfortunately, Bournemouth do win 1-0 with Philip Billing getting a goal, and it's a good goal. To be fair to them, and I think the leadoff story for me is that never never judge a book by its cover, or never judge a team by how you performed against them the first time, because this is a team that they beat 9-0 just a couple of months ago. Now that's not the same team anymore. That was a Scott Parker coached team, and that team did not have Django Watatara. But another thing too is it's been a theme for Liverpool season. They beat Man City in the Community Shield. What do they do after that? They drew Fulham in the first away game in the Premier League. They conceded first in that game. They beat Man City in the league, and they turned around and lost to Leeds at home, and then Forest away. They had this big Newcastle win, and what did they do? They drew to Crystal Palace, 0-0. So it's kind of been bit of a theme that they've done. So they had that gigantic win versus Man United, and they turned around and flopped a little bit at Bournemouth. At a time you could not drop points, and they did.
Mm. Alright, I got the stats. So, January 3rd was when Mitrovic last scored, and then
Okay,
so last 9 games, no goals, 3 of
close
those games were missed, a yellow card and 2 knocks. So,
close enough.
but well, I think what got you was let me 1
I'll
he had 9 goals. He had 9 goals going into the Everton game on, October 29th.
okay.
So he had 9 goals basically in, like, 3 months of the season, and after that, he's only had 2.
He's only at 2. Well,
Yeah.
I'll consider that a win. That's I mean, hearing that really did shock me, to be honest, because he had such a good start to the season, and
Yeah, for a striker, 9
it's
goals without a
really
goal is a lot.
it's really stalled for them, and that's big for them because they're reliant on his goals. I remember when we were doing like a season review a little bit, for Fulham. Like number the second in goal scoring, I think, was William on like 4. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
yeah.
No one yeah, they need well, I guess, they have Solomon now who's
Solomon,
providing at
Solomon's
least.
probably yeah, well, that was before Solomon became a name. Solomon's
Yeah,
got
oh,
like
yeah, yeah.
5 and 6 or whatever, so he's probably number 2 now. Um,
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for him picking up the pace, though, yeah, they could be. I mean, they're in a great place, but yeah, they need Mitrovic firing because I mean, you can't rely on Solomon. He's a new player to the league. It's really hard. So they do need more out of Mitrovic, but he's dangerous. I mean, he looked threatening at least when he did get the ball. He didn't get the ball that
I
much
agree.
for his Arsenal.
He had a header that like hit the post. I think it was from
Yeah,
a corner kick, but yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's just one of those days for Fulham. I think you're right to touch on the some of the positives. Um, with the Liverpool game though, the starting lineup I think was the issue. Klopp kind of went back to all of the things that have been kind of driving me kind of insane this season. Trent Konate, Virgil Robinson, that's as good as you can get for the back line. But is Elliott, Fabinho, and Bacic. It was really not the game to play the kid Bacic, and I don't think he's actually maybe at fault a little bit for the goal, which we'll get to. And then the front three was Salah, Gakpo, and Darren. So it was a false nine again with a 4-3-3. And the issue, so you versus Man United, you saw a box formation. You saw Gakpo kind of playing a little bit more in midfield. You saw Darwin and Salah playing a little bit closer, like more narrow a little bit, and that allowed Trent and Robinson to basically occupy the wings themselves. And it was just a complete mess this game. Gakpo didn't really know how to perceive the ball. He looked like he was struggling. Bajcetic, when you play with 3 midfielders in this 4-3-3 thing, those midfielders have to know that when the opposition on the wings run and when your fullbacks are high up, you have to track back. That's your man. And what happened, unfortunately, time and time again, is Robinson was getting caught, and Bacic was not recognizing to track back Bajcetic. And Elliott wasn't really doing great on his job as well, and so that kind of limited a little bit on Trent's side. You saw Liverpool really attacking on the left side with Robinson that whole game, and unfortunately, Bournemouth recognized that, and they decided to attack that outside with Watatara, and it worked for them.
Yeah, yeah, it did. And Beth's just so young that I think this was kind of one of those growing pain games, and hopefully he'll learn a lot from this. And I think he will. Like the Real Madrid game was another one of those games where I think it was a bit of an eye opener for him, and I think he'll take some hard lessons from these two games, and I think it'll improve him in the long run in the future. Because he's so young. Sometimes you need to learn from your mistakes, obviously, but
Well,
you just
he's playing technically, he's playing a position he's not known for playing.
yeah.
He's played a pivot midfielder. He's apparently he's a center back. He was center back in the youth. He was brought up to be a center back, but he's
Really?
such good ball playing skills. He was moved to
Damn.
be like a number 6, like I said, center defensive midfielder. But Klopp's kind of moved him to be kind of an 8 because Henderson doesn't have legs anymore. There's no Thiago. I do think this is a game where they miss Thiago. We'll maybe get to that as well. Um, so yeah, I can't really blame the kid to be honest, but it was just one of those things where it hurt. It hurt this game, and yeah, he's not going to be available for Madrid. So mainly he got hurt himself. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
Hmm.
but the problem was like the Gakpo and false nines. Like the problem is that whole thing, like the whole like thing. Fault. It's to basically drive a defender to kind of run to you and to get them out to basically follow you, get them center backs kind of out of position. You can maybe get something behind. Bournemouth did not care with Gakpo dropping deep. They didn't care about him getting the ball. They didn't care about Liverpool having the ball. And they were very, very compact. And there was no way to really break that. And what we saw a little bit in the second half was Klopp, I thought, actually kind of fixed it. We saw he brought on Jota and basically went to like a 4-2-3-1, and that kind of changed things a little bit because you had basically 4 attackers that forced a couple more questions. You saw Jota being able to actually beat a defender or 2. You saw Darwin able to get a little bit more in the midfield or a little bit more in central areas, and then you saw Gakpo actually getting the ball in kind of in central areas and being dangerous. And the only issue I had with that is after about 15 minutes, Klopp took Darwin Núñez off for Roberto Firmino, and all the crap happened again. Gakpo stopped being influential. Liverpool, I really don't think had any kind of fun after that. And yeah, there was the Salah PK moment, which I guess we can get to. But really, after Klopp made those second half changes, he brought on Henderson for Fabinho, Milner for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Everything that was somewhat working stopped, and so Klopp, I think, messed up for to start the game, and then messed up in mid game, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. But I don't know, like sometimes he had. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like sometimes Klopp's decision making is very head scratching, and
Yeah.
then sometimes though it's genius.
Mhm.
It's just very up and down, and it's kind of like Liverpool this year. Because we've been talking about they're putting this nice run of games together in the Premier League undefeated, and like if I was betting, I would not have bet that they would have lost this game just because of their form in the Premier League, and it meant a lot. Their standing in the league as well. It was a big chance to I think get in the top four, right, or at least get within a point.
It was a
Can't remember.
no, it was a chance to actually get above Spurs and Newcastle, at least points
Yeah.
wise, and they didn't. They not only did they not take it, they allowed Spurs to get ahead. They allowed Newcastle to get ahead. Newcastle are now only ahead. They have a game in hand, which I
Ooh.
completely forgot. And so
Oh, they
it
do.
was a
Oh.
massive missed opportunity because not only that, the next 3 games are only Man City away,
Ugh.
and then Chelsea, and then I think it's Arsenal at home.
Yeah.
So gulp.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the table and like they're they're in a decent place. They're 6 points back, which isn't ideal.
they
So
play
yeah, this game was kind of
and they play
crucial.
Spur
Then
they have Spurs at home, so
if
they can make it up on Spurs. But it's gonna take you're probably gonna have to take close to max points from here on out. And like I said, they not only do you have City away, and then Chelsea in the midweek. It's not these games are all within like 8 days. Chelsea's
uh,
probably starting to find a little bit more form. They're going to be, regardless of Chelsea can't really score, but they're going to be hard to score on. Their defense is starting to improve a little bit, and yeah,
oh
Arsenal.
yeah.
It's hard to get anything on Arsenal. You imagine,
Yeah,
and then
it's Real Madrid, then
they still have
City,
Spurs.
then Chelsea, then Arsenal. But after that, it's a little better. It's you got a little brief respite with Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and West Ham.
The problem,
But then, yeah, like you said, it's Liverpool.
well,
I
another
mean, then it's Tottenham. So
yeah, another problem is Liverpool have turned up really for the big teams, other than like Real Madrid. So
yeah,
maybe
well, they
that's it, but
turned up
like
in the first 20
they've
minutes.
struggled versus the teams that just play deep blocks against them. That's why I was really hyped and looking forward after the Man United game because Klopp didn't do that, and he went back to what had screwed them a little bit before the season. I mean, to get on the goal, it's a good goal by Bournemouth. To be fair to them, it's 3 times the charm for
Was.
Watatari. Watatari had given them 2 warnings, and so he was nice enough to do that. Liverpool didn't recognize that, but it's a mess from Liverpool's point of view. Because Watatari has beaten their offside trap high line 2 times before, and then basically it happens again here. And the thing that's annoying, I put down from a Liverpool perspective is Harvey Elliott is just walking back as Billing jogs in front of him upfield, and Billing makes the disguise run, and that's the reason why he's open is because everyone is so focused on the ball they don't recognize when Watatari cuts it back. Billing is completely unmarked. Um, and what's I think maddening is I don't really have. Oh, there we go. What's a little maddening is Van Dijk. It looks like he's recovered, and it looks like he's in a good spot. But Water is still able to get past him and Robinson. So he showed even more pace than I think he recognized. He has a really good pass to his teammate, and then Solanke doesn't really score or assist in the goal, but he has a nice clever run in the 6 yard area, and Kanate follows him. And by Kanate leaving that space, that's what created the space for the cutback. I'm not going to blame this on Kanate, but it was. I'll say Solanke gets maybe a little assist here. It's not going to count in any kind of the stat category, but without that little run, this doesn't happen.
Yeah, I like it. It was a selfish run too. Like sometimes you got to make the run, even though you're not the ball. And it sucks, but you can open up things for other people.
And there was a chance to maybe get something back before halftime. There's a free kick that Liverpool have. It's a good ball in, and Virgil Van Dijk just like misses it. And Van Dijk had a shot earlier in the game where he actually won the header, and it was defended off the it was cleared off the line. I think by Lerma. So Liverpool did have their chances. Um, and then the Salah PK miss, which basically that told the story of the game. Because it's not just that it was saved or anything. It's he misses the target. So that just yeah, that it wasn't Liverpool's day. I think basically when Salah misses, Liverpool don't win games. I think the last time he did miss was Leicester, and they like a year ago in December, and I remember they lost that game. Um, another kind of an issue was anytime Milner and Henderson are basically playing on the field at the same time. I think Liverpool's someone needs to track this. Going back to like the 2021 season, someone see all the points that they've dropped because it has to be historic. I think it's relegation level.
Really? Wow.
I would guess that, but I can only say it's bad. It never works. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think you kind of mentioned it, Rex, but I wasn't really surprised by this. I was expecting maybe them to drop points. I wasn't expecting them to turn up because again, I've kind of seen this year. And what's weird is I do expect them to turn up today. So maybe the opposite will happen. Maybe they'll get flopped. Um,
I mean,
but yeah, it just seems that it's what they've been. It's kind of been similar to them, especially away grounds. And they don't like that early 12. Well, the 7:30 here, the 12:30
mm,
there. For some
yeah.
reason, it's just been an issue.
Uh, Oh, yeah. What is that? Like a tea time? Is that tea time kickoff? No, that's probably three, right? I don't know.
Tea time.
Tea time kickoff is what.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, in the I don't know. Three is kind of late. You gotta do it early in the wintertime because it gets dark at like 5.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, honestly,
Anyway, it's
a-
tea time. British
any
people, tweet us
anytime,
what tea time is.
anytime in the year, whether it's winter or fall. Now it gets cold in the or winter or summer. It's obviously colder in the winter. Best tea time is 8. You're done early, but in the
Oh, you're talking
summertime,
about golf.
yeah, in
I'm
the
talking about tea. Like
oh,
tea and biscuits, tea and crumpets, tea time kickoff.
I was confused by that. Okay.
Isn't that what they call it? Yeah, so is that a noon thing?
I
It's at
don't
3.
the Rex,
When do they have tea in Britain?
I have no idea. You said tea time, my mind went somewhere else.
Oh, it
Um,
is. I mean, it is golf season, so, yeah, it's just so it's understandable that you're on golf.
so going back to the football, Liverpool did have 4 chances missed, 4 big chances missed. So that kind of said it. But here's a stat that surprised me though. They were 38 of 76 for long balls. Um,
Ooh,
Man City and Arsenal was 15 and 23 versus Bournemouth for long balls. And
whoa.
Man City was 15 and 26 for long balls. And Liverpool is trying to compare themselves with those 2 teams. And you're seeing how those 2 teams played Bournemouth and how Liverpool had to play Bournemouth. And so it's a reality check in my opinion. They did not have a way to be creative. They did not have a way to have the ball at your feet to maybe beat a defender to keep the ball on the ground. They had to go long and hope for something.
Yeah, that's true, and maybe that's part of, like, Thiago would help that if he's healthy, he could kind of
100%. Yeah.
help link up midfield, but
And, because another thing, because the Bournemouth were actually pressing, which surprised me. Now they sit back a little bit in the second half, but they were high pressing a little bit in the first half, and it was actually giving Liverpool some fits. And that's another thing too, where like Thiago's really good for build up. And I think Thiago would have recognized to run back. So yeah, it was.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, from Bournemouth's perspective, it was impressive. It was impressive for them to rebound. You figured, oh, that's such a heartache. Maybe the mind's going to be crushed. So the job that Gary O'Neill has done is it can't be spoken about enough. Because he's turned around a squad that is at least competitive. The squad lost 9-0 to the same team. He's got the team obviously believing. But another thing too is he must be really good at motivating them.
yeah,
Because to have that kind of turnaround, I really was expecting them to maybe be crushed a little bit. That was kind of what I was hoping for, at least. So
yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, they have I mean, they only lost to Brighton 1-0, they tied Newcastle, they beat Wolves, and then, they almost beat Arsenal tough against, Liverpool, so, yeah, I think it has been a pretty good job, it's just,
they've been playing
is it
really
enough to
well
keep
for
them up?
about a month. Yeah,
Is it enough to keep them up? I mean, they have well, they don't have a bad schedule going forward, for the next couple. I mean, they have Villa and Fulham. Then they have Brighton, which isn't good, and then Leicester. So it's not a terrible schedule. Yeah, I'm looking at the end. I mean, they have to play Tottenham, they have to play Chelsea, they have to play United. But other than that, those are the hard games they play. Other than that, it's not too bad. So maybe they can kind of make a a scrape by.
Well, if they don't, there's going to be a player that I think will still be playing in the EPL, and that name is Django Watatara, who I think is only 21. And I, I kept struggling to like during watching this game. I was struggling. I was talking with Jeremy, and I was struggling what this game reminded me of. First, I was thinking of Forest, and then the Salah PK miss. I mentioned Leicester, but the way Watatara basically announced himself, I'm going to go back to that Watford game in 2020 when Ismaila Sarr kind of starred and gave Liverpool their first loss in that season. But Watatara looks, it's not just the speed. He knows what to do with the ball when he gets to his feet, and he knows he's good with his decisions in the box.
Yeah,
And for being so young, and apparently he was known for creating a lot of goal scoring chances in France. Now
yeah,
people don't really pay attention to that, but I think he was up there with Neymar for at least goal creation, and you're seeing
yeah.
that
I
here.
think so.
And if they, if they don't stay up, I think he'll be on at least someone's radar.
Yeah, he was a good signing from
Really was.
Lorient, and at Lorient he had 6 goals and 6 assists in 18 appearances. So that's 12 goal involvements in only 18 appearances. And so far in the Premier League, he's got 3 assists in 7 games, and that obviously coming from one league, I mean league and whatever, coming to the Premier League, it's going to take some time, and he's kind of hit the ground running here. I think the goals will come, but at least he's getting assists right now, and he's kind of been that wide spark that they've been missing. And good on them for going to a lesser known team in Ligue 1 and getting themselves like a good winger that. Again, like being able to provide assist is awesome. If you're not scoring, at least you can help out the team that way.
Well, I weirdly
So
think
yeah, goal involvements is huge.
I weirdly think it's cheeky because I think their new owner is also he has some kind of affiliation with Lorient.
Really?
So they already knew about him, I think, but I could be wrong about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
Lorient actually got rated a little bit. One of their strikers was poached by I don't know Monaco or something. So,
I think Jamie said like Risa, like on Brentford was at Lorient as well a couple years ago.
oh, he was. Yeah, yeah, he was. Good call.
Um, but for some reason people don't like poaching from the French league. They get the idea that it's a farmers league because I guess what PSG does, and we're seeing more and more of those guys come in, and they aren't busted at all. And it looks
Yeah,
like that
seriously.
this guy is going to be good, as well.
Yeah, maybe just like the Pepe thing and paying that much for Pepe to flop. Maybe that kind of sometimes scares off teams from going over
Oh,
there. But
that might be the
other than
biggest. That might be
other than that,
the
though,
big example. Mhm.
these players hit though for the most part. Especially they got a lot of young, pacey wingers in Liga. Um, I mean, there's a couple guys that came over, like what's his name, a TK or something came over. He
Well,
hasn't played much, but
he's at PSG, I think, at Akita.
no, I'm thinking about another guy. I forget who it was, but
I'll probably
I'll
think
have
of
to
it.
go.
I'll probably think of
I'll
it
have to
later.
go. Who was it? I don't know.
I mean,
I think it's at Rams.
one thing I'll ask. Oh, Silamala.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Who
Yeah,
who's come
Sulemana.
who's come from Southampton. Fortunately, he hasn't really hit the ground running for them. But I hope he's still young. I hope the manager keeps playing him because I think he's getting close. He almost had an assist versus Man
Oh,
United,
we did.
which we'll get to. I mean, I kind of mentioned it a little bit. I mean, did you think this was just a matter of Liverpool taking the game off, having their minds on Real Madrid? Maybe that's why Klopp subbed off Darwin Núñez, or do you think that's going to be unfair to Bournemouth?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is a little unfair to Bournemouth because I mean, like when you look at the lineup, it's clear that they had like 2 blocks, um, and like eight basically could come back, and you could just leave Billing and Salake up top and counter. So I think it was a good game plan. But yeah, I just wanted a little bit more out of Liverpool. I don't know. They have been up and down, and we thought they were maybe stabilizing the ship a little bit. Um, I wanted more. I wanted more out of Gakpo. I wanted
Yeah.
And then yeah, like you mentioned, the midfield was. I mean, Fabinho with two young guys. I don't know. It just didn't work out. But I don't know. They're within touching distance. I mean, it was a big game. Maybe they did have their eyes forward to Real Madrid and like trying to pull off a miraculous comeback. I don't know, but man, I just wanted more. I just wanted more out of them. I wanted more out of Gakpo. It was good. It was a good opportunity for like these guys to continue their scoring fest because a lot of them scored braces last week, and Gakpo's heating up, Nunez is heating up. So hopefully, like they can kind of rekindle it. But I always worry, like an off game like this turns into like a bit of a rut, maybe, or a winless streak or something like that. So hopefully they come out and they just kind of they have nothing to lose and they continue scoring goals against Madrid and can kind of carry that back over to the league and start another streak. Because I mean, if they have another streak where they don't lose the Premier League for 5 games, they could be in the top four. I mean,
100
so it's still all
100%.
there.
But I
Big
mean,
big game,
especially if
big turning point.
they get through the stretch we've mentioned. I mean, I keep
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah,
back to a lot of people. I wasn't one of them that was celebrating this hard, but a lot of people basically said that they were fine with not basically. They were fine with having a poor season because of that United result. Basically, they were like, that can be our trophy. That's we'll have this for the rest of our lives. 7-0, ha ha ha. And, those people might get their wish because there's a real reality check that because of this result, you put that Champions League in jeopardy where you won't see Liverpool until 2024, to September 2024, potentially,
yeah.
which which
Exactly.
which should be scary. I think it's another example of where, uh, not getting a midfielder, last in the January window is insane. And, unfortunately, it was another case of it was unfortunate to see, Klopp go back to getting Salah and Darwin Núñez to play as wingers a little bit more as opposed to kinda playing closer in narrow spaces because I feel, they didn't have nearly as threatening a look, and, you mentioned the Thiago miss, definitely, but I keep going back to what City did with Bournemouth, because City made people think Bournemouth are maybe going to be relegated, and, what did Pep do? Pep played with 4 attackers, he didn't mess around, he played with Alvarez, and what Alvarez was doing is anytime Holland made a run, Alvarez was basically shattering him, and Alvarez was getting the ball in pretty good spaces and was able to put a couple away. And I look at who Liverpool have as far as their makeup. I see Nunes being able to do that, and I see Jota being able to shadow him. And I feel like
Mhm.
it was a missed opportunity to not see that. This would have been a perfect game to play Jota next to Darwin Nunes. And if not that, it would have been a perfect game to play Jota as the false nine than Gakpo. And I think Klopp
Mm.
messed up on that as well.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Possibly. We'll see. But yeah, I just want more out of them.
And so we move on to Spurs and Nottingham Forest. This one ends 3-1 with goals from Harry Kane with a PK, Son, and then Joe Worrell gets one back. And then maybe another thing to highlight is the keeper, Fraser Foster, makes a PK save to make it 3-2, make it a little bit more interesting. But one name I did not mention there is Richarlison, which I think we'll start off here. And Richarlison made a couple comments in the midweek, kind of sparking a little controversy. Conte was asked about it, and basically he's like, "I agree. His season has been shit."
Yeah.
And that maybe motivated both of them because Conte started Richarlison, and Richarlison had a fantastic game.
Yeah, yeah, he did. It was funny. He scored that goal, kind of did the shush motion to Conte, and then the goal was immediately chalked off for offside.
I
So it
thought
was
that
kind
was
of funny.
mean
But
because stupid controversy again. I didn't think that was worth taking away. But he was
yeah,
he was
that was
he
funny
was
though.
at the heart of like every good movement that Spurs did. I thought.
Yeah, well, I thought too it was kind of smart by Conte to be like, okay, you're not happy like with your playing time. Here,
No,
go
show it.
go and play and
Hmm.
see what you can do. Yeah, show it. And yeah, I think he did. He'll probably the way he played probably warrants him starting again, as long as everything's not too bad, like behind the scenes and in training and in the locker room with Conte and him, which they could be. I don't know. That could be something to look out for.
And then with I mean Nottingham Forest, they were a little bit better in the second half. I think what's weird is Lingard got a start. We haven't really seen him in a while. I think we saw why. Lingard had 18 touches. Emmanuel Dennis came on in the immediately to start the second half, and he finished with 35. So
Wow.
by that alone, kind of said stuff. Nottingham Forest didn't start with a striker. I mean, Brendan Johnson, I think, is like a pacey winger. He had a finish on it. He showed that versus Everton. He was struggling to get the ball, and then Chris Wood, Jordan Ayew, and then Emmanuel Dennis came on in the second half, and finally Forest had a little bit of an attacking threat. Before I get to the goals, I want to mention this stat because I might forget it. Nottingham Forest had 9 shots and 5 on target, which is respectable, but they had 8
Yeah,
shots
it
and
really
5
is.
on target in the second half.
Wow. Dang.
So that there was a reason why the first half was significantly different from the second half, and unfortunately for Forest's perspective, the game was basically over but by the time the switches were made.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Ugh.
I mean, what do you think of Spurs, or what did you think of this game?
Oh, I don't know. Spurs are another weird team where I kind of feel like I don't know what I'm gonna get. And
Mhm.
I mean, Son is kind of like that too. He scored in this one, so I don't know. I'm just kind of like, is he gonna play? Is he gonna start? Is he gonna be like a super sub? What is his role? For me, like the only constant thing in this Tottenham team is Harry Kane. You know, you're
Yeah.
gonna get goals from him. Other than that, it's all kind of a mystery. Like I mean, Pedro Porro played pretty well in this game, but he hasn't had the best start to life in the Premier League yet. So I mean, and then they're doing this too without Betancourt, obviously, and some of this too without Conte even being there because he had that surgery.
Mhm.
So I don't know. They're a really weird team. I think them and Liverpool are kind of like if one of them can kind of figure out things and kind of just not be so up and down. Just continue like putting wins together. One of these teams could definitely seize that Champions League spot. It's just like consistency. They got to be more consistent, and some of that's down to injuries and things like that, obviously. Um, but some of it too is down, with is the coaching potentially maybe making too many changes or not enough changes, things like that. But one of these teams, I think, will figure things out and will kind of take that Champions League spot. I think we'll see, but
You think it'll
both are
be?
just very
You think
hard.
it's
They're
between
hard to
those
predict.
those two, and maybe not Newcastle?
I don't know because Newcastle's struggling now too.
Mm.
So I don't know. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's those three. Maybe it's
It's
Newcastle, and
it's
Liverpool. Maybe I don't
yeah,
know.
it's so weird, from my perspective, that I have been kind of imagine thinking that, losing Betancourt, it really is gonna, basically burn them. What they did in this game is, they basically made Harry Kane almost like their 10, which what they've been done in the past as well. But in this game, Richarlison was their outlet. Richarlison was basically their striker, and he kept making these runs down the wing, and Forrest had no idea how to handle him. You mentioned the goal he scored. That came from making a run, up the wing that no one was able to, no, to handle. He had a fantastic finish. The goal that they scored, the actual goal that they score with Harry Kane, it's a Pedro Porras assist. But what happens is it comes from Richarlison being the attacking outlet again, and he gets past Shelby before the cross is off.
Mm.
And then the PK comes from Richarlison getting the ball again down that right hand side, and he draws the PK. He gets Joe Worrell to go into him. He brings him down, and then the Son goal comes from Richarlison again, making a run down the sideline, gets an early ball. He tries an early cross to Son. It's blocked off. Then Richarlison kind of sticks with it and gets the rebound and sends a really good ball into Son. And Son has kind of a Odegaard like touch. He like catches it on his nap or knee or something, and one feint and then places it into the corner. But Richarlison was really at the heart of every big moment that happened for Spurs, and I think it was because they didn't necessarily, it wasn't Son wasn't the outlet. They had him being the lone runner, and, at least in this game, it worked for them.
Yeah, it did. Well, maybe we'll see more of it too.
Because it's like
Next game.
it's weirdly one thing that Kulishevsky doesn't do. Kulishevsky likes kind of running to the ball, he likes being creative, he likes the ball at his feet. Kane obviously likes doing that as well. Son can offer those runs, but he sometimes he likes the ball at his feet as well, and sometimes you just need an outlet, and,
Yeah,
you're not
yeah,
necessarily gonna
that's
get
true.
that from the wing backs necessarily all the time. So, sometimes you just kinda need that because it is kind of easy to focus on Kane,
Yeah,
sometimes,
it
and,
really is. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Kane still gets 2 goals, but really Richarlison was the danger, I thought.
Yeah, and I think he did enough to probably earn him the start for the next game at least. So that's all you can really do is, make the most of your opportunities and forced your way into the starting squad. And I mean, he should be starting. He's good enough to start. So
I
I
didn't
don't know. We'll see. They
I
can
mean,
be even more dangerous so with him playing well.
I didn't realize that, I know he scored at least, in the FA. I think he scored in the Champions League. They said he hadn't scored, in the EPL, this season, which shocked me. I know he's had a couple good assists, in some big
Oh,
moments. So I know he's, like, played a role in some good things that have happened, but I didn't realize he hadn't scored, for them.
neither have I. I
And,
thought maybe he got one.
it felt like Kayla now because, frankly, if anything, Spurs maybe could have eaten in the second half. I thought Forest were actually there for the taking. You mentioned the goal getting chopped off for VAR. Richarlison had a shot that from close distance that Kayla Navas made a FIFA-like save. Just like cat-like to keep that out. So it felt like there maybe some animosity there, but I think if Richarlison gets a little more playing time and gets similar performance like that, a goal will come at a minimum. Um,
Mm.
yeah, it was a good bounce back week for Spurs because they had a rotten midweek performance with AC Milan. Just no goals were
Yeah, they
scored.
did.
Romero
They
red
got knocked
card.
out.
Just no really creation at all. Harry Kane like basically had a chance to equalize it at the very end with a late header, and that was saved. But there was nothing really other than that. And they've been having all these slips. Like we mentioned, that win versus City feels like a year ago, let alone just a couple of weeks ago. And
Yeah,
maybe this is just something to kind of change their minds a little bit. They see now in the points wise that they are in place at least for the Champions League spot. So maybe that'll remotivate them again.
yeah, yeah. It could. I don't know. They're hard to predict, but maybe Richarlison can continue this form and kind of get them over the hump and pick up just a little bit of momentum. Like I said, they're just so inconsistent.
Hmm.
If they could, just put together a run, they could probably grab that fourth place. You would think.
And we mentioned
It
it we mentioned
it
we
depends on
mention it all the
getting going.
time, but uh yeah, we don't really know what to make of Nottingham Forest. But if you watch the coverage,
Mhm.
their name's never really mentioned, by if someone asks like Tim Howard or someone on NBC who they're looking at for relegation, they don't mention Nottingham Forest, and I'm wondering why. Because they still don't really look like a team, and they have so many. Uh, Maybe their main benefit here is they have so many bodies that if they have an injury crisis, they can just next man up because it's not like you're replacing anyone that you're really missing because no one's really
Yeah,
doing a whole lot for them other than like Brennan Johnson and Morgan Gibbs
Brennan
White.
Johnson. Mhm.
Um, but I feel like there's just no consistency in this team, and you never really see any kind of identity.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm being harsh because they were better a little bit in the second half, but it was that first half at least was really brutal.
I don't know. I think you're right though. But I think I don't know. There's so many players on this team. It's a lot of squad rotation too. And
Mhm.
maybe I don't know, maybe that's part of the reason why it doesn't seem like they can really play that well together. It's just because you're constantly making changes and it's never like the same lineup. So it's hard to gel together when it's always like, oh, we got, new guys coming in and or the center back partnership's completely different. Like it takes a while to build up how each other playing with each like it takes a while to build up that chemistry and when you're going in and tinkering, changing the lineup. And I can't blame Cooper for doing that because he does have like 20 guys that can play, so he does need to rotate the squad. But sometimes maybe it's just much.
I mean,
Some of it's because of injury, but
it was so random to see Jesse Lingard get a start when we haven't seen him for I want to say all maybe since the
since
World
like
Cup.
October.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feels that way.
And he wasn't good for them. Chris Wood came on, and unfortunately for them, he looks like he did his hamstring in. So he was maybe offering he helped for one of the goals versus Everton last week. But going back to the game last week when they scored 2 goals versus Everton, that game was just a mesh of neither team really knowing what to do with the ball. There's a quote from Xavi Hernandez, like the former Barca player, or I guess now current coach, where he was like, the biggest difficulty at my job now is to teach the players that the ball is not a bomb; it's a treasure. And I feel some of these teams that you're watching at the bottom of the league kind of need to hear that too. Like They wanna just they get the ball and they wanna just boot it upfield as much as possible, quickly as possible. Liverpool can sometimes, like, fall into this. And, you don't
Yeah,
really see any kind of way to kind of control the ball. Like, the passing numbers aren't terrible. That's maybe the one benefit to them. They get better passing numbers than Everton. 318 with 81%. Better passing numbers than Brentford, which we'll get to. But, other than that, it's rough. It's rough viewing, at least.
yeah, yeah. I think so. I don't know why the pundits don't put them in the relegation zone either. Maybe it's just
I think
all
they
those signings that
I
they
think
can
they
get them
like
over the
him.
hump.
Uh,
Yeah, maybe.
I
Yeah,
think
maybe.
there's some of that. There's like a weird like it's kind of a good story because like they've won like the Champions League, so like they have like prestige. People like their home atmosphere when which is fair when they do have their home games on TV. Their crowd really pops on TV.
They
So
do. Yeah, they're raucous for sure.
there could be some of that. I don't know. We'll move
They're a
on.
former staple in the Premier League too,
Move
I
on to
guess,
one of
because
the teams that
they were on a
Him Howard did have on his radar, which was maybe news. So Chelsea and Leicester, and Chelsea do go on to win 3-1. D- and we'll get off to a couple like leading off stories. I think kind of the main thing was a couple former Leicester players came back to haunt their old club. With Ben
Mm,
Chilwell and Fofana had an incident where he got away with I think with a handball that wasn't what called for a PK, which was interesting. But Potter's good week kind of continues. They were able to advance in the Champions League, beating Dortmund and got a decent win here. And I thought Enzo and Mudryk maybe had their two best games. So
yeah, Mudryk for sure.
maybe some positives there. So I guess we'll kind of get started here. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, man, Mudryk was good. Mudryk was really good in this one. He's kind of been struggling a little bit, and he's given the confidence in that start, and he kind of showed it. And Enzo's been good too. I think he's been pretty solid every game. This was definitely his best.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just I don't know. It was Daka partnered with Iheanacho. Looked good on paper, but Iheanacho is starting to struggle a little bit now as well. The game before this, like we talked about how many misses he had, and just wasn't that great in this one either. But I don't know. It was just maybe a little bit of a revival coming from Potter because we know he does have the talent. Maybe it's just a case of they just needed more time to gel together because like if you look at the starting lineup, like Fofana's hurt. He was hurt, but he's kind of new to the team. And then Felix and Mudryk are new to the team too, new to the Premier League,
Hmm.
and Enzo Fernandez. So you're starting a couple guys that either haven't played in the Premier League much or they haven't played in the Premier League in a while.
Chilwell
So
returning,
maybe now
I think maybe
Joel, yeah, good
has
call,
helped out.
Joel.
Yeah.
So maybe they're starting to kind of stabilize a little bit and get something going. I think Cucurella's been better the last couple games as well. He had a boatload of tackles last game. So maybe Potter's starting to figure things out. Maybe players are settling down and getting used to playing with each other and getting used to playing in the Premier League. So yeah, I don't know. It's more things to build off of, and obviously Dortmund's a hard team, and they knocked them out, and they're on to the next round of the Champions League. So they got to feel good at Chelsea. Like the players have to be feeling pretty good. And this is another team too, Ben. That um, maybe if they get things together, maybe they can put a run together and maybe get in the top four. I don't know. It's a tough ask.
Ooh.
They're in 10th place.
Well, I hope
They're
not.
pretty far out,
That would
11
mean
points, but maybe.
max points, and that would mean getting 3 points over over the team I support coming up.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah,
I'd hope not. I think you're
they'd knock out Tottenham or Liverpool for sure.
I think you're right though to touch on at least the lineup, or at least the number of players that Potter has healthy now because it is different. We haven't seen Kovacic nearly all season, and he's come in not just the goal he scored, but he's come in and given them some real defensive, some midfield security that they've just missed all season. So I think him returning as well. Chilwell is so much better than Cucurella as the wingback option, which he not only does get the goal, but he gives them width. He's good defensively as well, and they're missing Reece James still, so this team can still get better. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek has come in and actually done a pretty good job for the last couple of games as well. The
Yeah.
only thing I'm kind of curious here is Yao Felix. I actually thought had a relatively good first half. He basically did score. I think it was offsides, and then he had a breakaway, and then he did a flick and hit the post.
Mm.
Maybe unlucky not to score a breakaway, but Potter didn't necessarily like him and took him off for Conor Gallagher just to start the second half, which
Mm.
I thought was interesting. But that front three was weird. Mudryk was started on the right, but when Mudryk was getting his best moments, he was getting the ball in the middle or going on the left side. Havertz was
Mm.
basically getting the ball and running to the right side of the field. It was not a very the front three did not have positions essentially. They just kind of had a free. All three of them had a free will, which I maybe that works. I'm kind of a little more nervous a little bit about that. So that's the only thing I'd maybe say. With Leicester, it was interesting to see, Rodgers kind of match Chelsea's back three with a back three of his own. Um, Maybe the negative here is he doesn't have center backs that have any kind of depth or any kind of speed, to them. So Chelsea were getting behind them for fun, and this didn't really work because they were trying to play a high line, trying to have cover with the wing backs, and it did not really work out defensively. I will say though, this is as good offensively as they've looked in some time. Now, it's crazy that this is the same team that went, for Southampton, had like 12 shots and none on target. We all thought like Iheanacho could have had a hat trick or anything. They had significantly more shots. Madison back helped, but I think Daka and Iheanacho together was a pretty good pairing. And frankly, Leicester had their chances to get something in this game. I thought. I thought they were a little maybe unlucky, which we'll maybe get to with the stats.
Mm. Yeah, the stats weren't bad for them at all.
I mean, we'll get to the first goal is just a Chilwell volley. The thing to touch on here is it's recycled possession after a corner kick. The ball just kind of looped in by Koulibaly. It's just kind of hit and hope. And Chilwell does really well to keep this low because this ball is high in the air, and he doesn't really get the best contact. But I think because he hits it first time, it maybe surprises Ward. And Ward's beaten near post. Maybe he shouldn't be beaten near post, but I don't want to necessarily go there. Leicester did have a chance early to kind of get back. It's with Amartey. There's just a missed header from close range. It's a really good ball whipped in by James Madison. And Amartey gets some contact, and the fact that he gets contact and he's 3 feet away, this needs to go in. That would have changed things. And then the chance for Felix. Havertz dropped deep. We saw this a lot. So Havertz was dropping deep. Felix and Modric were both ahead as options. And he floats a really nice ball over the top that Felix does well to control. He's 1v1 with Ward and tries to chip him. But the
Mhm.
thing that I think Potter would be upset here is he had Mudryk for a square ball. Easy. And he
Mhm.
opts to go alone. And then Chelsea score, but it's ruled off sides. It's another sign of what Chelsea can maybe become under Potter. It starts with Mudryk receiving the ball in a deep area in the middle. He has Felix and Havertz ahead of him, and then he plays Ruben Loftus-Cheeks ahead, making an overlap, and then Felix does well to make his run, but uh, he can't hold it. And because he is a foot offside, so the goal doesn't count. It's shocking defending by Amarty, to be honest, and Leicester, to allow you to be this kind of cut open when you're playing with wingbacks as well. You're playing the same formation. So I don't get why Ruben Loftus-Cheek is completely free by himself, but that is just what happened. Leicester
Mhm.
get lucky here, but it- you saw some glimpses of what Chelsea can maybe become. And then Leicester get the goal from Patson Daka, and this is maybe the reason why I think Felix was hooked. Felix tries to get cute. Leicester do well to kind of close him down with Daka, Dewsbury Hall, and Pereira. Felix tries to turn out of trouble, but Pereira pitches it off him and then finds Daka, and Daka just kind of does a shot from distance and beats Kepa. Kepa could maybe do well. Kepa, in my opinion, did not have the best game. Um,
No, yeah, he could have done better.
and then there's 4 rotten minutes, I wanna say, before halftime for Leicester. First, Leicester kind of forced Kepa into making 2 really good saves, first by Madison and Iheanacho. And then Madison is fouled top of the box. Fofana handballs this. And it's not overturned, I don't understand why. He's making his body bigger, but by doing what he does, and he blocks his shot from at least being on target. And then basically probably the last kick and a half, Havertz does really well to kind of find himself completely free in the box after timing his run to perfection. And it's a fantastic pickup by Enzo Fernandez. This is why you go get this guy. He
Yeah,
just a
exactly.
class float over the top. It makes Leicester look foolish. It looks like they're playing a different sport, and it's a very clever finish by Havertz. Nonchalant by Havertz.
Yeah, yeah, it was honestly a bit bad if he missed that because he looked like he yeah, it was very nonchalant. He looked like he wasn't trying. If you missed that, he would have been hooked too.
And then, I mean, there were a couple pairs of corner kicks for both teams. First, starting with Leicester. Again, it's Emirati where well, actually, maybe the first is Chelsea. Fofana makes a run near post and is able to force us a save by Ward. But on the other end, Leicester have a corner. Chelsea can't really clear the ball away, and then Leicester get Kepa to come out and basically leave his area. And it's an open net, but the ball is cleared off the line by Conor Gallagher, which Johnny on the spot in this case that this was going in. So
Yeah.
again, it goes to that thing where I was saying maybe unlucky here. There was a chance by Havertz also from a corner kick. Both teams looked very vulnerable, I guess, defending set pieces. It's a header and it's a good save by Ward again. Ward didn't have the worst game, to be fair to him. And
Yeah.
then let's see, I've got Amartey having another chance where Leicester played well. Okay, so Leicester played well enough to win this. But there was a big miss by Suter, and then this one by it's Duperhall, not Amartey, where it's another instance of Kepa making a mess of things. He tries to go for a ball and misses. So it's a wide open goal, and the ball is squared to Dewsbury Hall, and he whisks it. Any sound contact, I think it's a tie game. It's a volley effort, and I think it's on his left foot, but I think he is left footed. And because he's so close and it's an open net, this should be a goal. And he kind of flops on it. And then, basically, the other chance that Chelsea has, Mudryk, it's worth highlighting this because it's maybe what Chelsea can become. Mudryk, again, Leicester are caught playing a high line, and they get lucky because, again, it's offsides, but it showed how easy Chelsea were able to get behind this. And Mudryk, he's maybe a foot offsides, but he gets the ball and does a real good job to finish past Ward, does a nice little chip pass. And he scores, he celebrates, and no, flag was raised, and then Chelsea get the final one with Kovacic. Um, the only reason to highlight this is again Enzo Fernandez came alive. He doesn't have an assist here. I want to call it the pre-assist or the pre-assist. Because what he does is he picks out Havertz with like a really nice outside the boot flick upfield, and then Havertz runs, and then he kind of chips the ball cross goal to Mudryk, and then Mudryk kind of heads it to Kovacic, and then Kovacic has like a scissor kick. And there's no reason for him to be this good with that finish. And then maybe to make matters kind of worse is Ralph has picked up his second yellow. So Rogers tried this back three formation. It was interesting. Johnny Evans was able to kind of come on as a sub, so maybe he'll just play Johnny Evans. He haven't had Johnny Evans all season, but they
Yeah.
won't have Route Faze for the next game at least because of the red card.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be a big miss for them too. He's been doing better. Him and Sutar, they've been doing a little better. I mean, we're talking about how bad Leicester's defense was like early in the year, so they've come in and made it a little better. And they're two huge center backs, especially Suter. So
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, maybe Evans will play with Suter,
I
but
think that's kind of the
I
problem.
don't. I think he's going to be missed.
Someone like Suter needed to go to like Bournemouth or like someone that plays doesn't play a high line because he's got no pace to him.
It's
And
tough.
Leicester were
Yeah.
trying to press, trying to take the game to Chelsea, and there's just any ball over the top. Chelsea were having fun. I mean, the XG was the favored Leicester. It was 2.5 to 1.5, and 17 shots and 7 on target. Three big chances missed as well for Leicester.
Really.
So and the passing was somewhat equal. 429, 83 to 464, 84. So they were
Hmm.
they were close. They at least stats wise, and I think chances wise with Chelsea. So yeah, one of
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the scoreline looks worse than the actual game. If you look at the stats, you're like, okay, Leicester didn't play that bad. They just maybe needed a little bit more quality in the final, a little bit more class in the finish or a ball in the box.
And then I mean to focus on Chelsea now, he pulled. Do you have any thoughts on maybe him pulling Felix when he did? 'Cause that
Yeah,
kind of surprised me. Now it's weird because if they only have Felix on loan.
yeah,
So there's no reason to like you have to be married to Felix, but in some ways, I thought they looked better. Actually, in that second half a little bit when Felix went off.
yeah,
Maybe I'm
yeah.
wrong there.
I think they did. No, I think they did. I think they did look better. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Potter just seen enough, and he wasn't doing maybe what Potter wanted him to do.
Mhm.
Maybe he was kind of like doing his own thing. I don't know. Um, but yeah, like yeah, you're right. They're not like married to him. That they can buy him at the end of the year, but there's no obligation to buy him. So Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Potter just didn't like what he saw, wanted to freshen things up, and it's like, I don't care, what minute it is in the game. I need to change things up, so you're coming out. I don't know.
Yeah, because to do it after the first half, where Felix actually was creating some good chances. He scored a really nice goal, and then he's just offside, and he had a couple. He had that 1v1 chance. Just maybe it feels like him and Havertz want to play the exact same game, which we've kind of
Yeah,
mentioned that before.
maybe that's a problem. Yeah,
Um,
maybe that was why.
and to, unfortunately well, actually, I don't know if I would say unfortunately. The only thing I would say is, unfortunately for Felix, Chelsea are married to Havertz and not, but Felix is a better player than Havertz in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
to kind of touch on, I mentioned it a little bit. Howard kind of mentioned them. Do you think Leicester have enough to stay up?
Oh boy,
Not to
I
put
think
you,
they
not to put you
do.
on the spot.
I think they do talent wise, but they just can't put it all together. It's four losses in a row as well.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And yeah, and I mean their defense has not done them any favors. They've conceded 46 goals, which isn't great, but they've scored 37. So it's I don't know. I feel like like this is why missing Faust could be crucial, but I feel like if they could just get like Iheanacho firing
Hmm.
or Saka or not Saka, what's his face? Forget
Vardy?
his name, but no,
Oh,
Daka.
Daka. Yeah.
Daka. If they can get Daka or Iheanacho or Vardy, if they get one of their strikers like on a hot streak, because we thought we had Iheanacho on a hot streak, and they played pretty well when he was scoring.
Hmm.
I think if they can do that and still have their defense be decent enough, I think they can get out of this trouble they're in. But I don't know. There's just they don't have any form. I'm gonna look at their schedule too. I don't know if their schedule is that good. Oh, they play Brentford. Okay, the schedule isn't bad. They play City on the 16th, but
Ugh.
Liverpool on the 13th. But other than that, it's not a terrible schedule. They play a lot of the bottom teams. They play West Ham, Everton, Leeds, Wolves, Bournemouth,
So to play all the teams,
Palace.
that can maybe go. I don't know. That can maybe like bite you. You play all the teams that are close to you, so like
Yeah,
you don't want to give them
yeah. So I
points.
mean,
You don't want to give them points
yeah, you
either.
don't want to give them points either. But yeah, if
Um,
they can get, I think if they can get those, the center backs playing well and the defense playing well, and just a little bit of spark, like from a striker or maybe like Madison.
I think
Um,
I think he's the key.
Maybe it's enough.
Yeah, Madison needs to stay healthy for them the rest of the way.
Yeah,
If
that too.
he has another injury instance, I would maybe actually put them. I would dig the grave, as they say.
Mm.
Because they do look better with
He's
Madison,
kind of like
but I'm
he's
trying
their
to.
Odegaard, he's their De Bruyne kind of.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. Like, hearing like kind of playing back what I just said, hearing how the stats say they played even. XG was pretty good. I feel like I said the same thing when they played Man United. When, like, they faced De Gea into good saves, but then they gave up 4 goals. It looked like Man United were gonna score anytime they went forward, and defensively, they have been a mess. So
Yeah, that's
I
true.
am starting to worry, not just with Wout Faes, like, I'm just starting to worry in general a little bit with that. So, I don't know. Now
Yeah, I don't know if it's enough, but
I feel like
they have enough quality to stay up.
teams that stay up are it's less about worrying about who's getting the goals for you, which we kinda do. It's more
Yeah,
can you keep a clean sheet,
that's true too.
here and there? And,
Yeah,
some of these teams maybe struggle with that more than others. I think Leicester would be in that category.
yeah, absolutely.
And so we'll move on to Leeds and Brighton. Leeds get, I think this is bittersweet a little bit, for Leeds and maybe a missed opportunity, for Brighton. And, for Leeds, I put down, familiar faces or familiar heroes with, Bamford and Harrison coming back, to get the goals for Leeds. Harrison also has an own goal, so a little bit of a wild day, for Harrison.
Mm.
And then, the goals for Brighton for Alexis McAllister and, well, I mentioned the own goal. So, uh, what did you think about this one?
Oh, I mean, it was kind of I don't know. It was a little bit of a I don't want to say. Well, it wasn't boring, but I don't know. It was kind of like a chess game to me because it was kind of like
Mhm.
McAllister scored, and then boom, Leeds answered with Bamford, and then Leeds actually took the lead, and then Brighton were able to, or no, Brighton took the lead again, and then Leeds were able to answer. So it was kind of like back and forth. It was kind of a I don't know. It was kind of like a cerebral game with both coaches kind of like I said, like playing chess almost. It was like,
Mhm.
oh, well, you're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then you do that in response, we're gonna do this. So it was a good game. It wasn't like it wasn't a boring game, but I guess maybe just more shots on target.
Took a
Only
while to get.
7 shots between the two teams, but
I see what you're saying.
took a
It
while to get
it took a
going.
while to get
But
going. Yeah,
yeah,
maybe they're feeling each other out. I mean, looking at the stats, Brighton only having 2 shots on target. 14 shots. I think one big missed chance, I think, with the Welbeck chance. Leeds had four on target. And Brighton underperforming their XG. That that is Brighton. It was just one of those. I think Brighton were off a little bit. But you know, the unfortunate thing is like their football was about the same. Matoma was good. Matoma was excellent, to be honest.
yeah,
And
got the assist.
McAllister was well. It wasn't maybe the best game for Evan Ferguson, which was maybe why he was pulled for Welbeck. But that ended up
Mhm.
costing them because Welbeck had probably best chance of the game and he missed it. Uh,
Yeah, true. Yeah,
but
and Ferguson's young, so like you can't rely on him all the time. And he's getting starts now at least, and they were talking about him in the pregame a lot, so he's starting to get a little bit more recognition. Yeah, maybe he would have tucked away that goal that Welbeck didn't. I don't know. Maybe that would be curious to see, but still good player going forward, we think. And
mhm,
at the very least, you got a little bit of a change of pace from Welbeck, so you can change things up a little bit.
mhm. Yeah, that's good too. That's fair to say. And like maybe yeah, if you have both together, one thing they did versus Liverpool, this is not in the it's either in the league game or in the FA game, is they played Ferguson as the 10. They played Welbeck together. They played both. And it was really hard for Liverpool to handle. I think Brighton won 3-0. But one thing to maybe touch on is I do want to touch on a little bit on the goals because the movements leading up to them was pretty good. I don't have to do this for every game, but for the McAllister goal, it comes in the 30th minute, so that kind of goes into what you were saying. And there weren't really
Mhm.
many chances before this, but it comes from Duncan Webster having the ball. There's no Leeds pressure, and then Webster looks up and plays a lovely through ball to Pascal Gross, making a run to get behind the defense. And then Gross does really well to kind of put Mark Roca a little bit off balance. Shifts it to his right foot, sends a looping ball across the goal, and Matoma is first to head it, and he heads it towards goal and finds Alexis McAllister completely unmarked. Um, but the thing to touch on here is it's clever movement by him and Ferguson. So what Ferguson does is he kind of runs away from the goal, and what happens is he drags the center back with him, and McAllister just kind of slowly kind of takes his place. And what happens there is instead of a center back being in place to maybe stop McAllister, it's Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams is McAllister's man, and Tyler Adams just kind of ball watches, unfortunately. And so it's
Yeah.
almost like a free header for McAllister. And it was the thing to touch on is we mentioned it last week. Brighton have really good center backs with the ball at their feet. This goal really happens with that pass,
Yeah, they really do. I mean, especially Dunk, and they have Colwell too on the bench.
right? Hmm.
Levi Colwell, so like he can kind of play out of the back sometimes too. He's really young, but yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, obviously, like, Stupinan is a really good player too. He's not a center back, but he can still pass pretty well.
100. Yep.
I would think.
Hmm.
But it is kind of weird. I mean, I think Brighton's defense will be kind of kicking themselves because you don't really, we don't see Leeds score that many goals. They don't score more than one goal, in a lot of games. So, yeah, I think they'll kind of be kicking themselves that they dropped the 2 points here. But
I think the
Brighton they're always tough. They play tough.
I think the keeper will. I mean, these are two worldies. To be fair, at least
Yeah,
one of them even has a deflection. I think the Bamford one has a deflection, but it's
yeah, I
it's
did.
one of those. You hurt if you do or hurt if you don't. I don't know if that's a saying. Where
Do if you do,
s-
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
that's a good way
Yeah.
to put it, because
Yeah.
Robert Sanchez, we kind of get on him a little bit. He's really good at making saves. No one denies that. In fact, you mentioned it a couple times that he was, on a World Cup roster because of that. His issue is like the
Mhm.
ball at his feet, and it seems like the steel guy is good with the ball at his feet, but we haven't really seen him tested to make a save. He made a good save on to stop Brendan Aronson's shot, but that was low. We haven't really seen him, make a diving save, but Yeah, again, these were Woldies, so I don't really know if I can
Yeah,
blame that. To touch on the
yeah, and
Woldie,
you haven't been high on Sanchez either. Like
he just
you were always saying
makes
he can
mistakes.
make a mistake. Yeah, he
Yeah.
has a mistake in him. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a big call because Sanchez is a good shot stopper at the very least. Like we said, he was. I guess he was like the third choice keeper for Spain. He made the World Cup roster.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, like he does have a mistake or two in him, and maybe that's why he steals better with his feet too. Maybe that's another reason why.
I think so. And but well, to touch on the goal, like so, I mean, Jack Harrison first like wins the ball back, so he does well there. He finds Bamford, and then Bamford just basically takes a crack from like 25 yards out, and it takes a deflection to be fair. And this basically just banks off the crossbar. This could have maybe not gone in. But it's one of those things where Leeds have needed this luck to go their way. They haven't gotten the bounces this whole season, and they did here. And again, if Bamford can kind of get going again, Leeds might be okay. But
Yeah.
I think that's a big if. Um,
Yeah, that's a huge if because it's also like if he can get going, but if he can stay healthy too. In the last 2 years, he really hasn't stayed healthy. So I don't know if you have to rely on Bamford. It's I don't know. It could
it's
be a
like
recipe for
it's
disaster,
like
but you could
Everton
also.
relying on Calvert Lewin.
Oh gosh, yeah, it is though. Yeah, it very much is. So I don't know. You just kind of holding your breath if you're a Leeds fan,
Mhm.
mainly because you just want Bamford to be healthy.
And because you just see it really was a different team. But another thing to touch on the for the second goal, it's a Jack Harrison own goal, and that's unfortunate for him. But what Brighton do is they force Leeds to kind of play it long. It goes over Bamford, and then Brighton run it back. Casado finds McAllister, and the reason why we want to touch on this is McAllister does amazing keeping his balance because he shields his way, stopping Tyler Adams trying to take a stab at him, and Somerville 1v1. So he shows that he's very good with ball retention when he's being pressed. It's actually it looks video game like here. Then he finds Matoma, and Matoma shows that he can not only do well cutting inside, he can go down the byline. So he's got pace to beat a center back going to the byline. It gets a really good cross into the 6 yard area, and then Leeds just make a mess of it. So it hits first hit. I think it first hits Coke. Coke's trying to get a foot on it, and then it bounces back towards Melee. You can't really do anything with it, and then it looks like Marsh is basically on Harrison's back, so if Harrison isn't there to make a play on the ball, it probably goes in anyways. It was weird that Harrison tried to clear it with the foot he did. I think if he just does it with his right foot, he has no issues, but he like does it with his left, and it just kind
Mhm.
of deflects in.
Yeah, yeah, it's bad.
And then to touch on the Welbeck chance, Brighton have the chance to kill the game off. Welbeck freezes the defense, drags the ball with him to create the 1v1 opportunity, and then hits it wide and over the net. And it proves costly because Jack Harrison gets the goal to tie things up. And basically, it's just a short corner kick. He gets we saw a lot of this over the weekend. These short corner kicks working, and
Yeah.
he gets the ball inside the box and basically tries to aim for the corner. And man, is this a shot!
Yeah. Gosh, fantastic.
And that's pretty much it. I think the biggest three thing I think for Leeds is you play well, you get a result versus a really hot and informed Brighton team, and you're actually hurt because you end the day being worse in the table because of what Everton and Bournemouth did.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
it is sometimes things can be cruel, but maybe thing to be positive about is you get Bamford back, you get Harrison maybe scoring again, get them back in good form, and Sinisterra and Rodrigo returned at least to return to fitness.
Yeah, that could
So
be huge
you've been
too.
missing them a little bit, and maybe the one negative, at least from an American perspective, is it was one of the first games that Weston McKennie didn't start. We had been seeing him kind of start next to Tyler Adams. He went with Mark Roca instead, and Roca did not have a good game. So maybe we'll see McKennie again.
Yeah, we might. I think Roca himself is coming back, so maybe a
Hmm.
little bit of rustiness there. I don't know.
Hmm. That could be. That could be it. I mean, do you have anything left to say on Brighton or Leeds?
Well, obviously Brighton, we love to watch Brighton play. But yeah, Leeds. I don't know. Just obviously they're in a heck of a lot of trouble. But yeah, if they can get Bamford going, I mean, they're another team that on paper should have enough to get them out of the relegation zone. With a healthy Bamford, with a healthy Rodrigo, because Rodrigo has like 6 goals, I think, in the Premier League, and it was all like in the beginning.
Yeah.
So if they can get those guys healthy and firing and scoring, I mean, we do worry about their defense, but if they can score goals and just do enough defensively, maybe they can scrape by and get enough points to escape. But yeah, like you're mentioning, everyone around them either won or also picked up a point, so it really wasn't a point gained on anyone, unfortunately. But I guess they didn't lose ground either.
Ah, that's
So
another good way to put it.
it's still there for everyone. Like
Mhm.
a good run of form, they can get out of that zone and maybe get a little bit of confidence going. I don't know, but yeah, they just relying on people to be healthy always works because well, Bamford has proven that he can't be healthy. So I don't know. We'll see. But if they can get those pieces back and scoring again, yeah, they have enough to get through and stay in the Premier League next year. I think.
Also, all those pieces that we've mentioned, probably haven't played much football with the new
Right.
coach. So
Yeah.
that maybe
Yeah.
takes a little getting used to. Leeds have kind of
Absolutely.
taken some risk on not doing a marsh ball, and yeah, at least so far, it does feel like Leeds are at least they do feel a little bit more compact. They're harder to beat, I would say,
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Absolutely.
the new coaching change. So
Yeah.
that's maybe unfortunate to say because we kind of like Marsh. Um,
Yeah.
well, I'll speak for both of us. I know your opinions. We'll move on to Everton and Brentford. In this one, unfortunately, I have all good things come to an end, and that can only mean one thing. Our buddy
Mhm.
watching this, and he just texted, "Oh my god!" After like a minute into the game, and immediately I understood what he was doing because I was watching. I think I was watching the Spurs Forest game, and I was like, "Nothing's happened in my game." And I missed a fantastic goal. I don't know if you kind of saw this live as well, but
I
it is
did.
a wonder
Yeah.
goal by Dwight McNeil.
It was great. Yeah, and it was a minute into the game too. And yeah, Jeremy, I think I did, when he scored, I just went, "God damn it!" And then like a second later, Jeremy texted the same thing. And then after that, it was just from a Brentford like point of view, it was just frustrating. They just couldn't get anything together. They couldn't get anything going.
No,
I mean, obviously, a lot of that is like Dyche getting his Everton team really compacted, and they're really hard to like get through. They're really hard to score on when they have all these guys back. I mean, they're basically playing, five in the midfield at times, and they pull all five of those guys back, and you combine them with your four defenders, and you got like nine guys behind the beast.
nine
So
guys
yeah, it was
that are all physical beast too.
they're all big and physical, yeah. So I think Deitch has turned it around. I mean, a couple good wins, and they couldn't buy a win at times with what's his face, Lampard.
Lampard.
So yeah, so I mean, it was once they score too, they're gonna pack it in even more. So it was just very frustrating as a Brentford fan because they couldn't break them down, and they just I don't know, they had a little bit of an off game. Maybe I honestly thought Tony would kind of go off with all these like allegations around him with the betting and how much he's going to be suspended for. I thought he'd have a game where he goes off. Maybe it's today against Southampton, but
And he did. Oh, and they did say they're playing in the midweek, so maybe that's why. But
yeah,
I didn't
maybe
realize that. I'll be watching a different game.
yeah.
Uh,
Playing today at 3:30.
un,
Yeah, well, you
and
can watch 30 minutes of it before Liverpool.
and unfortunately, with they don't doing that weird. I hate the daylight thing. Um,
Yeah, they do it next week, right?
Unfortunately,
I think
with Tony, it did feel like he did have a couple chances. That
you did.
you feel like he would maybe put away just a couple missteps with his head. Um, to touch on the McNeil goal, the funny thing is Jeremy was like, he was Thomas Frank got this so wrong, and I was like, oh, it's interesting to see Damsgaard got the start, and Jeremy like basically pointed to that, and so
Yeah.
I didn't understand what he meant, and then after watching the first goal, back in on replay, I do get it, because basically right off the bat you see it's going to be a rough game for Brentford because it just from the kickoff you see, you know, Brentford go long, and Everton basically winning every single ball in the air, every 50-50 ball. Ben Mee then heads the ball to Iwobi. Iwobi does well to pick out Decore, and Decore makes a forward run. But there's just like three or four just kind of headed balls in a row where a Brentford player doesn't even get close to winning this. And then
Yeah.
the ball gets to a kneel. It's a dream hit from the left side of the box. The thing I want to touch on here is the technique is interesting. He doesn't follow through. I don't know if he like meant to do this, but it's hit with pace, but it's low. It has like no spin. And the thing that's funny about, Drake McNeil is, you mentioned Dyche coming in. For some reason, McNeil wasn't a guaranteed starter, under Lampard, if you remember back, and he we
Yeah,
people were wondering, "Oh, maybe it's a bust. Oh, this is why you don't get a Burnley player." There's a lot of that, and I don't know if it's something as simple as, he's feeling better with his old coach or what, but we've been doing this, every time we talk about Everton for the last few weeks, I feel like we've talked about McNeil as, like, one of the positives, even in
yeah.
games they don't really get results in, and, it's maybe fitting he gets this goal to help him out.
Yeah, I think so. I think Tarkowski is another one of those guys that has benefited from Deitch
Mhm. It's a good
coming
shout.
because he's also a very Deitch like player, big and physical. I mean, I'm still always just looking at that midfield three: Decore, Idrissa Gana Gueye, and Onana. Just three like huge players. Like
Really. All out. All like
that
six
midfield
three.
three. Yeah, that midfield three has like the potential to just go all out and dominate a game, any game. I mean, they have some limitations too, but with those three guys playing in the center of the pitch, and Dyche's propensity to get organized, I think this is a very different Everton team. Obviously, they're not going to score a lot, but they're going to keep things really tight, and it's going to be hard to score on. And if they get a goal, they're just going to pack it in even more and protect that lead. And this is kind of what they did in this. I know like Brentford had chances, but for the most part, it was just really hard to break them down. And I kind of would like Wisa and Tony and then Bumo, honestly, just two pacey guys next to Tony might have worked a little better. But
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe just wanted Damsgaard's like creativity and ball skills up there. Maybe he thought that would break Everton down easier. But I would have gone for pace in this one.
Yeah, well, it's not just the pace, like, the problem is, like you said, once Everton have something to defend, they're fine with actually not really having the ball, and the problem with them is they're actually quite good at pitching it off. And so the unfortunate thing for Brentford is they're sloppy in possession themselves. And so,
Yeah,
they basically, Everton maybe had a chance to kill this game off, because, Brentford, I think it's Rico Henry. Rico Henry just has a really bad pass, that Coleman basically wins off, and then Decore kind of plays it out wide to Iwobi, and Iwobi sent a Teasen ball to the box. It's a loose ball because Ray punches it away, and it falls to Onana, and, basically this ball, I think he hits it over the bar from close range, but you just see how quickly Everton are at being able to get those bodies that are in the kind of the midfield, kind of playing defense without the ball, to quickly make their runs and to get into the box when Brentford do or when Everton do get the ball and are able to attack. Like box to box is maybe a really good way to kind of describe them because they've got the legs to be able to cover a lot of ground. That you're right to kind of touch on. Everton are a kind of a scary outfit a little bit more than what
yeah.
they've been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going to be harder to break down and more physical with Deitch. And yeah, like I mean, they're going to counter. They're not going to score that much. But especially if you give them a lead, and giving them a lead in the first minute is like the worst thing Brentford can do because they are just going to sit back and protect that goal. And you're not gonna be able to counter on them much. You're not going to be able to counterattack because they're not going to really be pushing up that much. And you can tell by the lineup that that's going to be the plan, and it's working so far. They've got a couple wins. They're going to be hard to score on at least. I mean,
I mean,
Pickford too,
this
goalkeeper.
was
So
this was arguably the most informed team in Europe, at least points wise. So
yeah,
I mean, they were at home. They maybe benefited a little bit on the crowd, but yeah,
mhm.
this is impressive. You know, and maybe it could have been actually it could have been close. I mean, more comfortable than it was because it looked like they maybe had a second goal, but VAR kind of ruled it out because of Pinnock's kind of attempt. I think it's the right call, but to be honest, it's close. On second viewing, I wasn't really so sure. I mean, Penix was trying
Yeah. When you
to.
slow it down,
It,
makes it even harder. Yeah,
it's like it's one of those I won't say hospital clinics, but he's just it's a not reactionary clear. It's a desperate clearance. I guess I would put
yeah,
it. Because the ball has come in. It's almost like a set play because it's a free kick, but Pickford is the one that's taking the kick, which is kind of interesting. It's basically kind of
yeah.
at the halfway line. Pickford takes the kick, and I think he's trying to pick out Michael Keane. I think it's done on
Mm.
purpose, and Keane wins the ball and he heads it towards the box, and it's in a dangerous area, and Brentford kind of screw up with it, and then yeah, Penix tries to clear it, and it just kind of bounces off Demore Gray and it goes in.
It was a great ball by Pickford. He just like launched it into the mix.
And, from there, Brentford did have a couple chances. It did seem like Frank made a couple subs, brought on Kevin Schade, for example. I think he took off, Norgard for, like, Onyeka. There were a couple other changes he made, but, Brentford did have a couple chances. So, there's a corner kick that I think Pickford, kinda messes up on, and it's actually saved on the line by Dwight McNeil. So Dwight McNeil not only scored, he cleared a ball off the line that I think this is going in, and if it's not going in, Pickford has a tap in. So Johnny on the spot there, and then Kevin Schade had a header attempt that Rico Henry does well to create a little space. He has a cross sent in, and Schade beats Gottfried, but he hits the ball kind of out of bounds. And then maybe the big chance was Rico Henry basically had a close header that I think he headed it right to Pickford, and
Yeah.
that was maybe the real chance that Brentford had. And then Tony had a header that he also messed up on as well.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, he kind of blew that one. Ugh.
I mean,
It's just very frustrating, yeah, for Brentford.
this kinda surprised me. So it's 12 shots, 4 on target for Brentford, but 3 big chances, at least, the way that the stat thing worked. With Everton, it was 13 shots and 6 on target. And, yeah, the funny thing, I liked this stat. Both teams did not really care about having this was not tiki taka. Everton were 16 and 66 for going long, and Brentford were 38 and 75.
Ugh,
So Brentford
man.
were better at it. I guess you could say that. Um
Yeah,
And, I mean, that's kind of it. Yeah, I think Everton stopped Brentford's, 12 game unbeaten streak. So you get
yeah.
to, got a restart. And, yeah, it's one of those things where, t t t you see what Dyche can do with, they don't really have a striker, but when you're able to get those tall towers into the box, Onana and Decore or whatever can become strikers. And, it seems, there's touch on, McNeil a little bit. I didn't realize he had this kind of strike on him. But one thing
Yeah.
that's always been weird about him is, I guess maybe because he looks different. He's Scottish or he's not a. I don't know the
Not English.
best way to put it.
Is
Um,
he English?
he doesn't look like he would be a clever dribbler. Basically, someone that can like beat people 1v1. And
Oh, he is English.
he really has a lot of successful dribbles in the league. He's silky on the ball, surprisingly enough, and he looks kinda goofy, like, I guess he's got long legs, but he makes it work.
Yeah.
He's a tricky winger. Maybe he's not the most speed or whatnot, but he's able to get by players, and,
Yeah.
obviously with the shot he had, so
Yeah, that was a great shot. Great finish. It was amazing. I mean, I didn't it was shocking. I was like you. I didn't know he had that. Like, ooh.
I wanna see that more. I wanna see that, like, low follow through. Andrew my brother teaches golf, and he keeps talking about how, everyone should do, like, this, like, hold off follow through, like, every single shot. And,
Hmm.
not just like, for, when you're trying to do, like different yardages. Sometimes like when you're trying to play like a half shot, you can kind of hold your follow through. But he was like, do hold off the follow through for every shot. And it seemed like this
Yeah.
is this is what he did here.
Keep it nice and low.
So we'll move on to Manchester United and Southampton. And it wasn't the best weekend for actually it wasn't the best weekend for a lot of people in our group chat, other than you. Because
Yeah.
Jeremy was upset. I guess you were upset like for the last game, and our buddy Alex was well, not sending the most friendly text, in this game as well for what happened. I guess maybe the leadoff story is the Casemiro red card, and maybe we'll start off with that. Did you agree with that?
Ooh. Yeah, Ben, this one's a tough one because he got all ball, but I mean it studs up and it's really high. Like if he didn't get ball, that's an ankle breaker for sure.
I agree with that.
But I mean I do think it's a red, but it is tough because he really did get all ball. Um, but I guess if he just put his studs down and like pointed his toe, it would have been fine. I don't know why he went studs up. But yeah, and it's violent conduct too, so I think he'll be another three
It is another
games,
3
right?
games. Yeah.
I mean, that's not good at all because he's been so good for them. I mean, and I guess now you're gonna have to rely on like Fred and McTominay. It's not gonna be good. But I don't know. It's starting to I don't know, just mess with their momentum a little bit. Like one of your best players in a pivotal position too. Um, now it's a second red card, and not only that, but yeah, it's violent conduct, so it's another 3 games. They're gonna have to find a way to pick up some points without him. And I don't know. I think Fred can do a job for a game or two, but he I don't know. He's kind of up and down as well. So it sucks that it's in such a big position for them, defensive mid, and they already don't have Ericsson. So I don't know. I think it's going to hurt them. I mean, I think they're still going to be okay, but I think it might be a situation where you're looking at they might drop 2 points that they wouldn't have dropped if they had Casemiro in there, and that
Mhm.
where they are in the table, like every point counts. So they got to get through this patch without him, and hopefully try to get max points.
It's weird. I thought going into this game, I like kind of did like a pre-script, and I was going to say one thing I should have said after the Liverpool game is you're starting to see Christian Eriksen's miss show up
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
Casemiro had been asked to kind of be the guy to help with build up, and he's not really that kind of player. He wasn't that player at Madrid. That was basically Toni Kroos's job when he was at Madrid. And,
yeah.
the last few games of Ten Hag playing Fred and Casemiro together hadn't really worked, and I think one thing that was weird here is we did see a different lineup. Now we saw the same lineup tried out, versus, Betis, in the midweek, and they won 4-1, though I think it was 1-1 at halftime. But we did see a different lineup here. We saw Casemiro kind of as the lone guy, and then Bruno and Sancho were almost like double tens kind of in front of him with, I guess, Bruno both having a free roll, but Bruno would maybe drop deep or whatnot. Um, and frankly, I wanted to see this. I wanted to see how this would work. I've always wanted to see Sancho kind of played as a number 10, but I figured you can't do that with Bruno.
Mm. Right,
Um,
right.
but after this, I don't. And to be fair, it seemed like Ten Hag stuck with this even after they went down 10. They just took Wanghorst out. So they basically had
Yeah.
a front four, Rashford on the wing, and they instead of Casemiro, it was McTominay. So that might be the switch that we'll see. But
Yeah. Yeah, that actually.
McTominay is someone that can do a job defensively, but on the ball, he's got to touch with a brick, 4 foot. So
Yeah.
it's I agree with you. This is a huge loss.
Yeah, it's just in that pivotal position too. I mean, like missing one of their center backs would probably be worse, but other than that, I mean, that it's pretty bad. And you're starting to, I don't know, the goals are starting to drop a little bit for Rashford. Maybe it's just a little dip. But I always worry that like that could become, a goalless streak kind of
Mhm.
thing. And I mean, Fernandez was okay in this one. He seems some games he's just very frustrated out there. Um,
Yeah.
so like if things don't go his way, he seems to get frustrated pretty quick. And then I don't know if Veghorst up there is working. Like some games it is, and other games it's not. He still only has like one goal or maybe two now for United. Sometimes he gets those assists, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They're gonna have to figure out a way to get maximum points with like Fred and McTominay in there for the next 3 games, and those 3 games could be crucial. We'll see. I mean, if they start dropping points, that the race for. I mean, they're in third right now, but maybe you got two Champions League spots that are going to be up for grabs now instead of just that fourth spot. Maybe third and fourth will be up for grabs too.
That
I,
is
I I
that
don't know.
is interesting because I didn't. This is another thing I was kind of being blind about. Spurs are only like a point away from Man United, I think. I don't know if they have a game in hand or whatnot. I didn't realize it was that close. So you're right. Man United can maybe fall into this.
United does have a game in hand, but it's only 2 points.
2
So
points, right, but
yeah, 2 points.
I don't think people would have realized that just kind of, just being casual, like, following the season. Just the way everyone's kind
Yeah,
of talked about Man United all for the last couple of weeks. I don't think
yeah,
anyone
because we were talking
would have
about
expected that.
a three-horse race
Right.
a couple weeks ago, and
Only
now
a
they're
couple
down.
weeks
There's
ago.
16 points, well, a game in hand, but there's 16 points back of Arsenal now.
And with that
And then the last two they've dropped. Let's see, they've dropped 5 points
and
in
with
the
the
last two
Casemiro
games
red,
alone.
you don't know what they're gonna be like. They also it's worth saying they lost Garnacho, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
this
good
could be
call.
crushing as well, because he had been helping them at least, coming off the bench, giving Rashford some rest at least, or pushing Rashford to striker and giving them a left
Yeah,
winger. So,
he's a promising young player
he
too.
really
Yeah,
is.
you don't want to see like young players get hurt, but maybe it was the blonde hair. I don't know. I saw him. I was like, Garnacho, whoa,
I
what did you do
I
to his hair?
I tweeted something about that. I was like, this usually doesn't work out when someone bleaches." Messi maybe was the one exception,
Yeah.
but someone responded. He was like, "Aguero won like Golden Boot with the blonde hair," and I was like, "Oh, damn
Oh, true.
it." Well,
Garnacho kind of looks like he should be in the Bangrilla. He's got
Just
like that haircut and
just
like the teeth. I don't know.
he should not go blonde. Like, Enzo showed up, like, with blonde hair for Chelsea, and, it wasn't working out, so, like, he changed it up and, started playing well, so
They
don't
just get bored, I think, and they're like,
don't
I'm gonna go blonde,
don't do the
and then if
bleach.
I hate it, I'll just
Don't do the
yeah,
bleach
don't
hair.
do it. Don't
Uh,
do it. It looks terrible.
sa
It's
save
like a
your
'90s thing.
save your money and do the veneers like Firmino.
Yeah, actually, or I guess Klopp. Does Klopp have
Klopp
veneers?
has
I don't
veneers,
know. He's
I'm
got some
pretty
great
sure.
teeth. Yeah, he's got some great teeth.
And, I mean, maybe the one, like, positive, I guess, like, Martinez and Luke Shaw, bounced back, had good games. Martinez actually maybe saved a goal, because uh, it looked like Walcott actually had a breakaway, and Martinez was actually able to somehow catch up to him.
Oh yeah, that was
Um,
brilliant.
this is well by Martinez, but it's another example of I wanted to put down here, like, for a note, Father Time catching up to everyone because Walcott in our prime or, our time watching Walcott, no one would have ever caught him, on a breakaway. He was like
Brilliant.
that he was that kind of player, and, it was painful to watch the 34-year-old try to run down. He didn't look confident. He had a chance to, he I think he could have actually cut across, stopped Martinez, and actually given him a better chance to have an angle versus De Gea. And instead, he kept it on his left foot. I don't think he's a left-footed player, and he tries to chip, and it's a kind of a weak chip. I mean, Southampton did have some chances here, unfortunately. There was a wild moment where, like, Bruno hit the post, and then, like, a couple minutes later, Walker Peters, hit the post. Just, it was the announcers were kind of annoyed that this game ended 0-0. And they just kept being, like, exasperated, being like, "I don't understand, John." Uh,
Yeah, and you thought with the red card too, like it
well
would open up
well,
the game a little bit
the red
more.
card did open it. I mean, Man United did have 10 shots and 4 on target still. And it did feel like they were defending, but they still had their moments. Bruno had his moment. Um, Southampton actually, I think it's a negative they didn't get something in this game, to be honest, because it did feel like they were still vulnerable. And you up a man, you should do more. I mean, 17 shots, only 4 on target.
Yeah,
And the passing
yeah, that's
numbers,
true.
that you Man United almost tied them in passing numbers. That's a bad sign.
Down a man. Yeah. Well, I don't know too. They can't figure out like their offense. I mean, I don't who I don't even know who that. I mean, I guess Ward Prowse is their leading goal scorer, and like it
Yeah.
would be interesting to see how many goals he has from open play because
Oh,
it
it
can't
was
be many.
speaking of him, maybe their best chance, it was almost too fitting. Yeah, I guess, like, the soccer gods wouldn't allow it to happen, because he was so close to breaking David Beckham's record at Old Trafford.
Oh,
In the second half, he had a free kick, and, this is from pretty far out. The announcers thought, there's no way this would actually happen, and it clips the post. De Gea is standing still. He's a statue, and this almost goes in, and that would have been pretty awesome. Um,
that would have been
nah.
that would have been awesome.
I think maybe one thing to touch on is, he showed up he got like, a little cameo in the second half. I thought he was brilliant in the Betis game when he came on is, you know, there's maybe a door opened up, obviously, with Garnacho, going on, they're still gonna need to rotate some bodies a little bit, for the wide positions. Maybe it opens the door for Palestri. Now I know
Yeah,
he
I actually
plays
thought that too.
he plays on the other end of the field, but, sometimes they move Rashford over. Um, Maybe you can do that, because I think every time he plays, I think he looks pretty good. I think he offers them a little bit more than what Anthony does.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can because Anthony can kind of just be a one track player. So I agree, Ben. I think Palestri will be like the Garnacho. When Garnacho's hurt, and that's always. I mean, you got two young guys here that are getting game time. You got a couple more young guys, Langa, and they're getting some experience at getting game time. And the best part is you don't have to rely on them, and you don't have to play them all the time. So you can kind of rest them and get them used to, being physical in the Premier League, and just you don't have to play them, which is nice.
Mhm.
Kind of keep their legs fresh, and they're not going to get hurt. Hopefully, I mean Garnacho, obviously that one,
Yeah, because I mentioned I mean,
playing too much or whatever. But
I mentioned that in our little group thing, and Alex is like, "Oh, I don't like it. I want Ten Hag to." That's why Ten Hag is a coach. He knows how to manage, youngsters better. And I was like, "Oh, okay, fine."
Yep. Yeah,
Poor
yeah,
poor water on my suggestion. But maybe he has a point because, I guess you kind of see that with Garnacho. Maybe Garnacho has been overplayed, and, but then again, there was a really harsh tackle on him. It was like a
yeah.
scissor tackle. It was in
from
the box.
behind.
It was,
Yeah.
it was in the box too. But he gets all the ball. So
Mhm.
it is what it is. Um, I mean, I feel like I've asked this question a couple of times, but are you after like the couple of weeks? So I'll include what happened last week, versus Leicester. Are you more pessimistic, more optimistic, or maybe more pessimistic on Southampton's chances of staying up?
I'm more pessimistic. It was a big opportunity for them. I mean, I know they got a point, but it was still a pretty big opportunity for them to maybe get all three, being up a man for,
I
you
agree.
know, I mean, 60 minutes basically. It's a lot of the game they're up, and especially with the teams around them, like you said, they either got point one. So I mean, it's still 2 games in a row in the Premier League without a loss. So that's something to 4 points right there. It just all the other teams around that. I mean, West Ham tied, Bournemouth won, and Leeds tied. So they're just kind of treading water. But I mean, just a win and they're out of it, which is crazy. A win and some of these other teams, lose, and Southampton's on 25 points and they are out and into safety.
Mhm.
So it's still all there, and the fact that they've two games in a row without losing, and I mean, if you look at Man United is one of the teams that they got the draw, and you don't think about the red card, then it's looking pretty good. So maybe it's something they can build on. I don't know, but they need goals from somewhere. I don't
Yeah,
know where they're going to get them.
I didn't.
They've only scored 20 goals. It's absolutely terrible.
I didn't like what the coach did. So he made
Lamana, right?
he decided to make some changes. He brought on he was Yakov Sulemana. He brought on he was like Adam Armstrong. He took off Che Adams for Seiko Mar. That wasn't necessarily terrible. Brought on Paul Onacha, who did not work at all. And yeah, I just felt like their attack kind of. I thought that Sulemana was like doing some good things, and he makes a mistake here and there, but I didn't think he was necessarily the problem. And then again, Man United were open. You had Sulemana maybe make some runs and try to hit him on the break, and they didn't really try that. The only chances that came was like the Walcott chance. Um,
Yeah, yeah, true.
and
Oh, I don't know. Maybe
I don't think it's
they played Alcaraz and he's young, so maybe they can like kind of build up him. They got a couple young players.
yeah.
I don't know.
And Alcaraz
Lavia is
and
another.
Alcaraz was the reason why they beat Leicester. That he's a good shout. But
Yeah,
and they subbed him off. Now he hurt himself getting the knee challenge, and he's the one that Casemiro did the challenge on. So that guy has gone through the battle, gone through the
yeah,
gone through the whatever this saying goes, gone battle lines.
in the wars.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
gone in the wars. Maybe that's the reason why he was subbed off. But I think that's right. I mean, the last thing to touch on is I never think it's a good thing when you're up a man, and I think probably player of the game is your goalkeeper, and I think that's who it was
yeah,
in Basuna. Basuna made some really good saves.
he did. He's another young guy too.
Hmm. And so we'll move on to Wolves and Newcastle. How are we doing for time?
He was
It
born in
could
2000,
it
so
could be
so
better.
he's another young guy. Oh yeah, we're doing bad with time.
All right. Well, we only got 2 games left, right? We're fine.
Yeah,
We're fine. Wolves and Newcastle. This one ends 2-1 with goals from Alexander Ishak. Wang Chan makes it 1-1 in the second half, and then when it looks like Newcastle were going to get another draw, we were kind of making a joke about this before the game. Jeremy said like basically this game's been in a tie like every single time it's happened, and Almiron is able to win it at the very end. And what's interesting here is Almiron started on the bench. So that was a bit of a shock. There's a bit of a lineup change from Eddie Howe,
Murphy.
and
Yeah,
and,
Murphy
and
was weird.
and it worked. He started Isaac over Callum Wilson. So maybe I guess we'll maybe start with there. What did you think of what Howe did, and what did you think of this game?
Well, oh, excuse me. Yeah, having Murphy in was definitely weird because I mean he's a pacey player, but we haven't seen a lot out of him. And Almiron's been on quite a little bit of a tear. I know recently maybe it's dipped a little bit, but also I guess you can't fault how because in a way it worked because maybe he's thinking Almiron we can bring him on if it is tied,
Hmm.
maybe he can break the game open for us, and that's exactly what happened. So maybe he was like, we'll have him just in case if we need him. We kind of like break the glass and let him out and maybe get the win. But yeah, I don't know. Isaac's starting to settle down a little bit, but other players, I want a little bit more out of Saint Maximin. He hasn't. he hasn't been like the sparkling player that we're used to seeing, and maybe it's just like
Yeah.
injuries kind of taken a toll, all the injuries he's had. But I want to see a little bit more out of him. Murphy's not bad. He's pacey, but I think Almiron's better.
Mhm.
But yeah, Newcastle starting to score a little bit more, and now they have some when healthy, they have Isak and Callum Wilson are two really good strikers when healthy. So that's good at least. And then for Wolverhampton, they got Nunez back. He was off the bench. They kind of rested him. But I don't know. It was a pretty fun game. I didn't think this would be that fun. Just because like Newcastle hasn't been scoring that much and Wolverhampton kind of the whole year. I mean, they've been doing better under Lopetegui, but they haven't scored that much either. So I was kind of thinking it might be like a dull, like 0-0 kind of game, and
Mhm.
it ended up pretty entertaining. And like a couple goals, late on, uh, in the 70th minute. So it definitely got better in the second half and later towards like 20 minutes to go. It was getting better, but it was a decent game. I wasn't expecting this.
Full disclosure, I was watching the VCU game during this. But I was
Oh well, that
able
was
to
a good game
I
too,
was
though.
able
Yeah,
to I had my fun with that. I was able to catch this on replay. I mean, the 19 shots and 8 on target. Eddie Howe had them doing training drills, on the weekend. I actually thought this could have been their eating half in the first half. They had 13 shots and 5 just in the first half. Their, Wolves, Jose Sa was keeping them in the game, yeah, the interesting thing I thought was, Wolves did a good job to at least withstand that barrage in the first half. One
yeah,
thing I wanted to ask you though is there's a moment before the first goal where Nick Pope has a horrid first touch, and Jimenez kind of jumps on it, and Nick Pope brings him down. Now there was no talk at all about either a red card or a PK. I don't necessarily know if it's a red card, but I think for sure it's a PK. And VAR even looked at this and they assumed it wasn't a clear and obvious mistake by the ref. I think if the ref calls it on the field, they don't overturn it. And
yeah. I
I
think you're
think
right.
they desperately got away with one here.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Um, yeah, without VAR, it's definitely not. Yeah, or if they called it that way, it's not gonna get overturned by VAR, right? So
I think so, yeah. And with Almiron came on, and he to be fair, he looked good. So maybe again one of those times where sometimes it's just having your legs a little rested, and maybe a little motivation, can help you out
yeah, that
because
too. Good call. Yeah,
not only did he score, there's a chance at the end where he gets the ball from like a short corner kick, and he shows a really good burst of pace to get to the byline, and has a nice little cut back ball to I think it's like Sven Botman, and Sven Botman just like balloons it out of nowhere, destroys the chance. And that had that gone in, that would have been a fantastic goal as well. And so there's been a lot of like weird things for Newcastle. This little stretch of roughness is over. And you finally saw the ball go in the net. I really think they could still have a say in this because I think all of a sudden playing 2 games in a week, we're starting to get to them because they went all the first half of the season not having to do with that, and then
mhm,
by doing this Carling run or league run, they were being asked to play 2 times a week, and now
yeah,
you had the championship game as well, and now that's finally over. You're back to only 1 game a week football. I really think they could do this again. They could find that same form again,
yeah, yeah. I think so too because that
which
form
which I
that
don't
they were
like.
on was imperious. Yeah, true, true. Because they weren't losing games. But I don't know. It's another team like if they can keep people healthy, then they really will challenge for top four. But if they have injuries, they have a little bit of of a long leash with injuries because like if Isak gets hurt, you do have Callum Wilson and vice versa. But you got some people with some injury issues at times, injury history. So like I don't know, things could go. They could go on a run, but if people got hurt, I don't know. Maybe you could see them like go on a bad run of form.
Well,
So I don't
if
know.
something happened to Trippier, I have no idea what they would do. I don't
Yeah,
even know
he's been crucial.
I don't even know who their backup is.
Or
And
Pope or something too, yeah.
well, we know their backup is. We Pope's backup is Karius, or no, it's the
Yeah, who is Trippier's backup?
is it
Manquillo? Target, maybe?
Manquillo? Oh, okay.
Target? Is
Okay.
Target
I
left?
think Target's left back.
Okay, so he's Burns' backup. Yeah, it's Manquillo then.
Yeah. I mean, one thing maybe to touch on is I didn't like their passing numbers. Just 238 for 79%. For a team that's fighting Champions League, you usually see more possession-based teams.
Mhm.
So the passing numbers are a little off. But again, you're able to get this big win, and that was without Joe Linton. Joe Linton had to miss for suspension, and I guess he'll miss 2 games now, with the two game thing. So
Yeah.
that's worth saying as well. And we'll quickly move on to actually. Anything left to say about Wolves? Oh, we're
Oh no, I mean I think
yeah,
obviously like they're doing much better with Lopetegui, so they'll be fine.
not great for time.
Um, yeah, yeah, but that's it. Yeah.
I mean, one last thing to I guess say is I didn't even know this, but like the thing Jeremy texted was wild. How it had been over a year since a recognized striker had scored for them.
Really? Yeah, I
Uh,
guess that makes yeah, that's a good step. It makes sense.
and
We're still waiting for like Jimenez too to
Jimenez,
start
I
scoring.
feel like Jimenez is getting close. Like he had the shot that like, kind of gave him the goal last week, and Jimenez honestly creates the goal. I think for Wang Chen. It's like his positioning. Well, one, he does a really nice touch to kind of get behind a defender, and then Trippier like freaks out and basically he like goes around and like clatters into Pope, and that's the reason why they basically get a tap in.
Yeah,
So Jimenez is kind of getting closer. That's maybe good to see. And then we'll end
yeah,
with West Ham and Aston Villa. This one ends 1-1. Goals from Ollie Watkins. It's a really good goal by Ollie Watkins, and then they give it all away with a Ben Rama PK. Maybe the leadoff story here is the ex Brentford game, Brentford players game with
mhm.
those two players, and then it was also the Danny Ings returns game, and Danny Ings did nothing, so maybe that's why Villa were fine to give him away.
Yeah,
I think maybe the main thing for West Ham is it was a better performance. You saw a different back line. I think helped out. Cahar was back. Zuma was back. Maybe that kind of changed things. You also maybe another benefit is you saw Maxwell Cornet make a return, who I think they'll
yeah,
very much need, and maybe that's the reason why Ben Rama had a pretty good game, to be honest, because someone is now able to return and give him some to test him for playing time because it was probably Ben Rama's best game in a while too.
yeah. And he's been kind of stagnant recently
I think so
too.
too. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and he can be like an amazing dribbler with the football too. But yeah, if they can get him going, that would certainly help because I mean they're in trouble too. West Ham's in. I guess Moyes is on the hot seat. I mean, I don't
Be
know. It's just a couple of years ago we were
it
talking about them like
being
going
able
to
to
Europa
being
League.
able to
So
survive Brighton thing, I think it's safe. Because if you can't if you're not getting fired after the Brighton loss, and to be fair, they did perform a lot better in this game, to be fair to
yeah,
them, but yeah, West Ham are not out of this because they look hit and miss as well. 17 shots and 6 on
hmm,
target, that is much better. 2 big missed chances by both teams, I think shows up. If you're Villa, I don't really know what the motivation is, and that's the problem maybe Emery has, at the minute, and you're also missing, you're missing Barbecue Kamara, and he's trying to play John McGinn kind of next to David Luiz, and that's not working. They're not the same players, not the same, like, quality, so that's maybe
yeah.
that's maybe an issue.
Yeah, I think so. And the good thing they do have going for them is their goal differential is, pretty good compared to Bournemouth, who they're level with on points. West Ham has
They're much
they're
better
minus 10
they're much better
and
defensively,
Bournemouth's
even though
minus
it
26.
even though it didn't show up
Yes,
versus Brighton.
34 goals
Yeah,
conceded is pretty
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 good.
pretty good. But only 24 scored, which is weird considering like Paqueta and like Bowen. They got Skamaka and Antonio, but yeah, some of those guys, yeah, the guys that played well last year, Bowen and Antonio, are just kind of struggling this season, and that's a big part of why they can't score. Moyes has got to try to figure that out. But defensively, they got enough to stay in the Premier League. They just got to figure out how to score.
I think you're right, and that's probably the way that West Ham's gonna go. Maybe they'll stay up just kind of by a hair, and, that'll be time to be like, "Thank you for what you've done. Time to maybe start over and start from scratch." I can't imagine they stick with him in the summertime, but they shouldn't. I kind of agree that they should stick with him until then. I think if they stick with him, they'll stay up. But yeah, it's maybe one of those marriages has come to its end. And that's kind of unfortunate because, like you said, they were so close to getting in that top 4 spot in two
They
two
really
of the last
were.
3 years, and because they weren't able to get over that hump, it's maybe and you haven't really seen a whole lot of turnover. you are seeing maybe some of that show up in this year, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that is that's not too bad.
Yeah, it was normal.
Anything you wanna end with?
No, we got a crazy sports weekend coming up with basketball and soccer, so
Oh, this is
I'm
gonna
looking
be
forward to it.
this is gonna be brutal. We might have to take a take a bit of a break. We'll see, 'cause it's gonna be hard to
Yeah, because
follow. It'll be easy to, like, watch the games live, but it'll be hard to, like, do a script left and right after Saturday and Sunday is gonna
watching
be
basketball and stuff.
probably.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Hopefully, I'll have a reason to watch both, Friday and Sunday. We'll knock on wood. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully VC does well.
and I guess I'll have some nice I'll do what I'm not supposed to do as a I guess, a past, Tech fan. I'll wish, UVA well, 'cause, I've seen a lot of people
Oh,
picking them for upset, which kinda surprised me.
yeah. I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
even
they.
I don't even know,
I don't know.
is Furman good?
I
That
think they are.
that's
Yeah, I
been
think they're really
that's
good.
been like a it's been a trendy thing that I've been noticing, and I was like, "Oh, shoot, I've got UVA kind of in the Elite 8, so
Ooh.
maybe I shouldn't do that."
Yeah, Furman's good, and apparently Furman. Some big colleges are trying to like recruit some of Furman's players for as transfers. So I
Are
don't
they
know.
are they in
It's
the
going to be
state?
interesting. From no, they're in North Carolina,
Okay,
South Carolina, South Carolina. Yeah, they're in
okay,
South Carolina.
that's
So
good.
close, but no, not.
And I guess we'll see, yeah, 'cause, whenever they play Bama, I was like, "Oh, Bama will beat them." But, yeah.
Oh, Bama. That's weird that Bama's number one seed. You're like, what? Is this football? What is
Yeah,
going on?
when did that happen? I haven't really followed basketball that much. Anyways, that is all. We'll talk about that. And Ian Rex, good to see you again. Thank you for joining again. And we'll all be back here next week, same time.
Yeah.
And that's it. So for us to at the reserve squad, you stay squatting
Stay squatty. Thanks for listening.
and stop recording.